Yo, what is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here, Dean78904. That is the daily fantasy handle. Hopefully, we may see somewhere near the top of some MLB DFS contests going down this evening. Of course, there are two different slates. Fanduel DK did not communicate, and Draftkings is including the first two early games. So it's a 7-game slate over there on DK and a 5-game main slate on Fanduel. Draftkings is including the San Francisco-Milwaukee matchup, which of course includes Corbin Burns. Colorado and Philadelphia starting at 6:45, also on DK's main slate. Freeland versus Gibson. We are also going to be bringing in Dave Potts, the author of the $1 Million Musings. He's, of course, going to be on Crunch Time later, but before that, he's going to jump in before that Milwaukee game goes down around 6 o'clock, and he'll give you guys some thoughts as far as the first two games that lock. Well, I guess Milwaukee, San Francisco locks, and then he'll give us thoughts on Crunch Time as far as Colorado, Philadelphia, because he'll already be on at 6:45. All right. A lot of words to explain. We'll talk about it throughout. Plenty of time to do that because we're here all the way up to locks, 7 o'clock on the East Coast, 7:07 actually, if you want to get all technical. That is the FanDuel lock. Crunch Time will take you guys up there. We'll hand it off to them around 6:25 or so. Joining me today, from such things as NASCAR, as the Morning Grind podcast, as potentially rocking a man bun. You catch him on the right day. It's Stevie. What's going on, dude?
Nothing. Just opting in to make sure I get my, little losses back from NASCAR this weekend. Totally forgot to do that over there on DraftKings. So, yeah, man, I'm good. Talladega this past weekend, I think the worst Talladega race I've had in like 10 years. So, Dean, I'm ready for baseball. I'm ready to talk some baseball.
I know nothing about NASCAR, but I think is Talladega the one that's like famous for a lot of crashes?
Yeah, and like so
famous
my
for
strategy,
Ricky Bobby.
Yeah, my strategy for those like races are like always underweight on like the chalkier plays, and the chalk just absolutely crushed this weekend. So both races, like both Xfinity and Cup, so it happens. But like I said, ready. This baseball slate's fun. A lot of interesting ways to approach this one.
NASCAR chalk, right? From like, the most predictable being basketball, the least predictable being baseball. We'll talk about it. Where is NASCAR as far as like predictability, as far as variance of outcomes?
Talladega and Daytona you can't predict it at all. So that's why when there's chalky plays, it's one of those things you just take a stand. But we
lost him.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was me or if that was him. I was giving him a second. I thought he was in deep thought, like really putting a lot of consideration in that. It's like, well, yeah, yeah. He turned into the statue.
Most of the time, chalky play.
Well, we lost you for a bit, Stevie.
I could hear you guys the whole time, so it was weird.
That was strange. Yeah, we didn't mean to cut you off. We just couldn't hear you. So I'm sure.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. That's TJ Zwarich. I've been practicing that. Did I get that correct, TJ?
Oh yeah, you're blowing Stevie out of the water here.
I mess it up every time. Yeah, I mess it up every time.
You just heard it, Stevie. How would you pronounce TJ's last name?
He told me it before, like doing the podcast, like right before, and I still messed it up like 30 seconds later. So
it's so funny how
the reputation.
He'll consistently get it right off air, but then as soon as the podcast starts recording, it's done.
What's up, TJ? How are things in your world? How was your weekend? Again, we'll talk about the slate. Plenty of time to knock out talking about the slate tonight. There's also basketball going down tonight. So let the people be aware. If you don't happen to be a Rotogrinders premium member, it seems like we're giving away like one piece of a premium content every single day. You can get a peek. Go to rotogrinders.com and check out the NBA expert survey. As far as the 3-game, slate going down tonight in the association. I believe it was Andy Means and Mr. Tuttle, and I think Notorious that were on that. Don't quote me on that, but at least two of those guys are on there. Giving your thoughts as far as we might see Brooklyn get knocked out, might get swept tonight versus Boston. Joel Embiid with his thumb against the Freddie VanVleet-less Raptors. How do you feel about your Raptors, TJ?
I think they put up a pretty good fight, and my FanDuel team today has 4 Raptors in it. So there you go.
Well, all the usage. I'm not playing tonight, but I assume it's because FEV is out, and some, all of a sudden Barnes is going to play 90 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But to answer your earlier question too, I'm doing well. It's been a real good weekend. I was on Crunch Time Saturday, Crunch Time Sunday, and yesterday I didn't play much because I was on Crunch Time, and but I banked all the single entry stuff I was in. I won the $5, $10, $25, and $50 single entry stuff on Fanduel yesterday. So had a good little day there.
What was the
I'm
key?
doing well.
What was the key of success yesterday? What took it down for you?
Byron Buxton and the San Francisco Giants, which both were plays that I talked about really liking. Buxton, my favorite tournament hitter, and Giants, my favorite tournament stack yesterday on Crunch Time. So the people hopefully are in for something good today. Spidey's been off 2 days in a row. Spidey bums failed us. So I've been pretty hot, but Spidey not so much. So we're chucking him to the side today.
Is Captain America available? Is there somebody else on standby?
It's always Spidey you want, but if you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, the cartoon, or any Spider-Man movie, you know there's lots of Spider-Man out there. So we might have something else cooking if we get the right amount of likes today. We're up to almost 100 people watching. It's a long show. If we hit 50, we're giving out Spidey bombs today.
So after two, just you're saying small sample size Spider-Man. That's it. He's just thrown to the curb, or
yeah. I mean, he's still hitting 75% or 66% on his fantasy point outputs, but that's not good enough. We need more consistent. You can't get 2 days in a row wrong here.
But Spider-Man's like, look, listen, there was no spring training. It's really cold. They might have killed the ball as far as they're not letting it go as far. You got to bake this stuff in. That's 75% is pretty solid.
Look, he had a shot, but we got Spidey 1, Spidey 2. We even got Miles Morales Spidey over here ready to come join the team. So there will be Spidey bomb calls if we get them enough likes, but it's got to be a different Spidey. He let us down.
It's funny because you asked Stevie before the show, like, hey, Stevie, this is the first time you see my setup. What do you think? And he goes, you have too many toys. And he didn't know you have more.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I know. Me and TJ have talked about it, podcast recording and stuff. I think it's cool. It just, I have one of those. I have a Venom, and that's it.
Who's that? You said Morales? Who's Morales? Is that a guy? Spider-Man guy?
Miles Morales. That's a different Spider-Man. If you should watch the animated movie Into the Spider-Verse. It won an Oscar. It's probably the best Spider-Man movie ever made.
I watched the first half of it and I fell asleep because I was tired. I didn't hate it and I just didn't revisit it. But I heard
that's Miles.
Okay, yeah, I heard it was really good. Allegedly, I know the new Spider-Man. Well, I guess I shouldn't give spoilers out, but apparently there's more than one lurking in the universe or the multiverse, whatever the kids call that. Yeah. All right. Do you want to say what's up to those? You did say hello, TJ. You are the head of marketing in this show for today and today only, if nothing else.
I just often make fun of myself and I change the tone of my voice a lot. I get loud, then I get quiet. And hey, as long as we get those likes, I'm willing to keep doing it.
You gotta beat the algorithm somehow, hit that like button, and also participate in the conversation. We got producer Steve, we got producer Devin. They're gonna pull any sort of like anything y'all want to talk about, today. We're happy to do so. We're here for the next hour and 20 minutes. We're gonna hand it off to, two-time millionaire winner Dave Potts. Will, Chief Justice, will give you some tournament takes. Of course, I'm sure he'll give you some thoughts as far as what's going on in the prop world. If you guys want to join the prop conversation, you can join. You go and hang out in the Discord channel there, rotogrinders.com/Discord. And Will, Chief Justice, it's a free channel. It's not a premium channel. There are some premium channels. This one is not. Chief's Prop Shop. Just hang out in there. It's a good community, and they have that joint sweat that the Chief likes to talk about. Of course, you guys can hang out in the live show, the live stream chat. That's another spot where if you want to ask some questions. And I've noticed this, by the way. I'm sure when Roth comes on and he fields questions, and there's probably some people in the YouTube chat like, why is Roth not asking my question? Like, he's first going to like the Discord stuff. So like he's not intentionally ignoring you. I imagine at some point he'll get the YouTube, but I think he's first looking at not just the live stream chat, but also the Crunch Time baseball chat as well. All right. That's enough preliminary. Steve, you said there's a lot you like on this slate. 2 different slates again, 7-gamer on DK, 5-gamer on FanDuel. Lots of good pitchers. Not a lot of hitting. No team has a total above 5. And we've talked about how, runs have been down so far this year. Yeah, tell me what you like about this slate, because I like the pitching. I don't know what the hitting.
I mean, I like pitching for me on this slate is how much Burns and Scherzer can I get together on DraftKings? On Fanduel, I want Scherzer. I want to pay up. We continue to talk about offense just being down a little bit to start the season, and you kind of touched on it. It's cold, short in spring training, but at the end of the day, we saw some balls go over 450 feet this weekend. So I don't know how much they've killed the ball, but it definitely has made a little bit of a difference here. And then like hitting wise, obviously, if you're playing on DraftKings, Philadelphia is going to be really popular today. They're in a great spot. We're seeing some good ownership on like Houston. We're seeing some decent ownership on like Cleveland. But for some reason, I think the best offense on the slate is the Dodgers, and some of the pieces on the Dodgers are going to be really low owned. So, I mean, there's a lot of good ways to kind of approach this slate. And even looking at Philadelphia, some of these guys in the Philly lineup towards the bottom are going to be low owned, and they're cheap to kind of help make the stack work. So a lot of different ways, I think, to get your favorite stacks on this slate and just pay up at pitching. That's going to be a priority for me today.
I like to sort my pitchers, and one of the columns I look at is like home runs per 9. And it's like the only guy that really gives up home runs that's throwing baseballs today is Kyle Freeland, 1.4 per 9. And, he plays in Coors, a chunk of his games, obviously. Beyond that, like the next one's like, pretty good pitchers that give up homers, like Scherzer at 1.09 per 9. Barrios at 1.1. Corbin Burns just like gives up so few homers, doesn't give a lot of fly balls, 30% fly balls, 0.48. Framber Valdez and his absolutely ridiculous ground ball rate. Who wants to take a stab at Framber Valdez's ground ball rate since last year? Who knows that?
69%.
It's a good guess. It's a nice guess, actually. TJ, you want over or under 69%?
Under, I think it's like 66.
It is 70.7.
Oof. Yeah, I knew it was high.
That's pretty insane. And like, it's hard to hit home runs when you're hitting ground balls. His fly ball rate is 13.7%. 0.73 homers per 9. Homer in the fly ball is actually a little bit high at 21.1%. Bueller doesn't give up home runs, 0.85. The point is, like, we're not seeing any home runs, and there's not a lot of home run pitchers out there. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. That's just how this stuff goes. But a lot of pitchers that don't give a lot of homers, and home runs aren't happening anyways. You did mention Philadelphia. By the way, Rhys Hoskins, Stevie, is leading the league currently right now. If you look at the StatCast data in hard hit rate, if you care about such things, it is early in the season. No, I lie. He's second behind Christian Yelich, two guys that are kind of sort of back, bounce back candidates. It's early, but I just thought that was interesting to note. TJ, your thoughts as far as, how to handle the two different slates. Again, DK's got Philadelphia, which is really interesting. Milwaukee's got some pretty good prices too. And of course, has Corbin Burns. Fanduel doesn't.
Yeah, so I think Corbin, like Stevie said there, Corbin Burns is my top pitcher on DK. Him and Scherzer are kind of 1A and 1B though. On FanDuel, Scherzer is definitely your top pitcher. He's your cash game guy. He's your best one for single entry. I am running 150 tonight, so I am planning on differentiating, getting a little bit of everyone, and definitely trying to get over the field on those mid-tier guys who I don't love as plays, but are probably only going to be 3, 4, 5% owned. So as long as I can get over the field on that, I'm happy with it.
You're talking FanDuel, you're running 150, right?
Yeah.
And is every pitcher in play for you? Like, are you going to have some Mikolas at 9.2K? Is that going to happen?
Well, let's I just have a fresh set of 150 that just got built. So let's see what we got here.
Maybe 1 or 2%, maybe, but probably not. I don't know.
Currently 5% Mikolas, which again, I don't like, but I'm still getting 30% Scherzer and stuff like that. So I'm okay with having that steady stream for just in case. It's a small slate. You never know what can happen.
Merrill Kelly's been really good this year. He's 9.8K on FanDuel when he's facing the Dodgers. Like, good Lord, man. But he's been good. Like, it's undeniable. If you look at his numbers, he's been solid this season. Not a great matchup. I would imagine that's another one. So you're getting like 3 or 4% of Kelly, something like that.
Yeah, 3%.
Yeah. Who is Scherzer? We know the deal with Scherzer. Awesome strikeout pitcher. You prefer him against a pile of righties as opposed to a pile of lefties. And he's facing a St. Louis team in a pretty positive pitching ballpark that doesn't strike out a lot. but there's a bunch of righties. Like if you look at that lineup, it's really contact heavy. 15.1% TJ collectively, dating back. Well, this is this season. Let's get the bigger sample because I think it's got to be lower than that if you include 2021, right? Yeah, well, then we get it at 20.6%, but they're not striking out at all this year in small samples. You do have Tyler O'Neill, which is nice to see. Carlson from the left side, but Scherzer's best used against the power righties, 37.2% strikeouts. I think it's 6 righties, 3 lefties. The lefties are not particularly imposing. Edmund leading off, Dickerson, who's seen better days, I would say, but every once in a while he shows some pop. And then Carlson. Yeah, you mentioned Scherzer. Again, no Burns, obviously, on Fanduel. But Max he's the best option of what we have to play with here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely the number one option. And I'm playing one lineup, main lineup, and then my 150. I would like to get to Scherzer in that main lineup. That's my plan. As it stands right now, I'm a sucker for symmetry. It gets me when I get a nice 4-4 stack and it lines up so well. I often just I like going there, even if I have to sacrifice a pitcher, which is not the right play. But right now I have a Bieber lineup in there with a team that just looks beautiful. So we'll see if I switch it up before lock.
Talk to me about Bieber. Once an absolute elite pitcher in the league. He's been fine this year. The Ks are down a little bit. The walks are way down. He's not walking anybody. Angels, we know the deal with that lineup. It's really, really tough up top, and then it gets a little bit easier as you work way through. But if nothing else, even the good hitters, Ohtani and Trout and Walsh strike out plenty. K's up and down that lineup. I don't know what to do with Bieber. I don't know if we have enough information, but so far, he's been pretty good. 27.6% Ks is pretty good, not like his career or whatever, but 3.4% walks is awesome. Giving up a lot of fly balls, almost 53%, probably too many. But I think he survived that. I don't believe he's given up much homers this year. Homer and fly ball's been in his favor. But why? I don't really have a good read on Bieber. I think he's good. I don't think he would have what he once was, but still playable, right? I guess.
I mean, what he once was, that's kind of a tough way to look at it because it's not like this is some 38-year-old guy coming off an injury. And it's I don't know if he can get back to form. I don't know if he's what he was in his prime. This is still a young guy coming off of injury. The numbers aside from the strikeouts are great. However, the scary thing is his fastball's down this year. And so that could be one of those things that there was no spring training. He was hurt last year. It's just going to slowly ramp up as the year goes on. And I mean, if that's the case, I definitely want to be on the side of that. I want to get that game when that happens. Right. But having said that, I like Scherzer better. I'm not saying play Bieber over Scherzer. The reason why I'm considering having it in my lineup right now is just because I really like how my hitters line up with that lineup.
Stevie, I want your thoughts as far as Bieber. Let's see, fastball velocity last start, 90.2, 91.1 before that. Going back to last year, he ended at 90, 91, but in the middle of last year, he was looking at 92, 93. How much does that matter? And obviously sometimes you get wonky guns as well too. And, if you get one outlier, you don't really freak out about it necessarily. Where are you at, Stevie, as far as the Biebs?
I don't think he trusts his fastball right now. We talk about his velocity being down, and that last start against the White Sox, we saw him throw, almost 50% sliders. So I'm just worried about his confidence with his fastball is down right now. The velocity is down on really all of his pitches, just in general. So that could be spring training. It could be not 100%. There's a lot of different reasons that could be behind Bieber not throwing as hard this year. But for me, I think he's okay. I just don't think he has that ceiling that Burns and Scherzer has on this slate, just in general. So I haven't projected for 4 points under those guys, kind of in the same price range. And ceiling wise, he's facing a tougher lineup too. The opponent, the Angels, I think their implied run total is 4, where, San Francisco and St. Louis, they're both under 3. They have 2 of the lowest implied totals on the slate. So, I mean, if you're paying up, it's tough for me to get off Burns and Scherzer, but on the flip side of that, it's baseball and anything can happen. So I think if you're in that range, why not just play Bueller, who is a good real life pitcher. His fantasy games are kind of all over the place, but he's coming in at even half the ownership of Bieber. So, I mean, if you're playing the tournament game, why not just go ahead and play the tournament game? And, it's not like the Arizona lineup is anything scary. And, Buehler is someone that can get strikeouts. He can throw 5-6 innings and get you that quality start on FanDuel. So I think if I was going to choose between Bieber and Buehler, I'd take Buehler, but I'm just being honest, like Burns and Scherzer are just way out in front for me.
TJ, your thoughts as far as Buehler? And I guess the counter for that for Bieber is the matchup. You say like there's some tough hitters, but there is a pile of potential strikeouts in theory. But like,
the bottom of that order for sure.
Yeah, no, up and down for the Angels. Yeah, I mean Trout and Ohtani strike out plenty. They're good, but they strike out a lot.
Yeah, but the sample size for Trout, like Trout's not a huge strikeout guy. He was hurt last year. We haven't seen him fully this year. I just, I'm not looking at 130 plate appearances against right-handed pitching and saying, "Oh, Trout stinks." He strikes out a lot.
I'm not saying he stinks for the record.
You did. I heard you.
Those were your words.
I have earphones on, but I mean,
Cardi said that he's not the number one hitter in the world anymore, and so now you said he stinks.
So yes, he's fallen from 1 to 2, and now he stinks. He only banged out a couple homers in the same game the other day. I think did Cardi anoint Soto? I think he put Soto up there, right?
Yeah, he had Soto number 1 now.
Yeah, last I saw Soto, this might have changed. He had 3 home runs and 3 RBI. Not his fault, obviously. Like, RBI is not the best stat to show how good somebody is or is not. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of it's rough what they have around him. It's unfortunate. But yeah, your thoughts here, TJ, as far as Buehler, he's got more win equity, I would say, than others. Minus 200 favorite. He is facing Merrill Kelly. He's been pretty good. But his Ks are not incredible, but they're fine. And he has a decent shot of going 6, possibly 7, right? So I think he's good too. But I'm going to be shuffling through, but I am with Stevie, where I think Max and Burns, I'm trying to make that combination work on DK and see what I can get around that. I think that's what I'm locking in. While being on the show, I'm just going to lock in Burns and backload it and just figure it out. As far as my main lineup on DK, maybe I'll add in I don't know, McCutcheon or maybe a Renfro. Probably not. We'll see.
Josh Naylor, baby.
Who?
Josh Naylor opens everything up.
Well, no, I was thinking about as far as the 6-10 game. Anybody else have to lock in for San Fran, Milwaukee. Where's Naylor hitting tonight?
5th.
I think 5th. All right, fair enough. So yeah, TJ, what do you have as far as Buehler?
So kind of the way I'm looking at this is I have only playing on FanDuel tonight. I have Scherzer in a tier by himself. And then I kind of have a bucket of Bieber, Buehler, Valdez, Berrios, Eovaldi, and even kind of Michael Lorenzen in there too. Those are all the guys that I'm getting 10-ish% of. And I'm just kind of spreading the field amongst them. I'm really just kind of viewing them as whichever one fits in my lineup. Great, because they all have a similar kind of route to success in terms of odds, in my opinion. And all of them are probably a little bit higher than the ownership they're getting outside of maybe Berrios. So I like kind of all of them pretty equally today. They're sort of all in the bucket, but Scherzer's in a tier of his own.
You mentioned Berrios and his on DK, it's kind of a different conversation with him. You roster 2 pitchers over there, and Berrios' price just kind of stands out. I know he hasn't been amazing, but he's 5.5K facing a Boston lineup that's pretty good. They're getting JD Martinez back. This is a guy we paid 9K for last season. It's just very strange how cheap he is over there. And again, I know he got absolutely shellacked his first start versus Texas after signing, $100 million contract or something like that with your Blue Jays. But he righted the ship against the Yankees. He was not great, but didn't get his face completely punched in. And then he was good against these very Red Sox last time out in Boston. Berrios on DK at 5.5 is I think that's just too cheap. I don't really want to pick on Boston, but at some point you got to roster some dudes you don't necessarily feel great about and embrace that variance. And I think I feel better about him than Gibson. Gibson might be safer. I'm doing air quotes, maybe, because that Colorado lineup is pretty weak, but I think Berrios has more upside. Would you agree that Berrios has more upside than Kyle Gibson?
Yeah, like for his price, absolutely. Like if Scherzer's price wasn't broken on DK, then Berrios would be without a doubt my SP2 on DK today. Since since Scherzer's only 9,300, it isn't that hard to go Burns and Scherzer together. Mm-hmm. But Berrios at 5,500, like that's just wrong. Even his price tag on Fanduel, where he's in the 7K, is like that's still relatively appealing. This is a guy we've paid high 8Ks, low 9Ks for his entire career, and just because he had a bad start at the beginning of the season, people are kind of hitting the panic button. So I think Berrios is a great play over on DK. He's getting about 30% ownership ish, but I still don't really think that's enough. Like he's probably going to be the best point per dollar pitcher. It's just whether or not you're going to need that when it's not that hard to pay up for Scherzer and Burns.
Checking out our ownership stuff on DK. Burns at 43%, Scherzer at 45%. Like you said, it's not that hard to pair those two. Gibson at 32%, Berrios at 27%, Bieber at 15%, Valdez at 11%, Eovaldi 8%, which is kind of interesting, and Buehler at 8% as well. Then it kind of tails off. Stevie, what do you think of that ownership there on DK? Do you agree with most of that? And how do you plan on adjusting? Because I know you mentioned you like Scherzer and Burns. I get it. But if you are going to spend down, and you can, with Berrios and I think Berrios and Gibson are the two obvious spots. Those are places you can go. But talk about that. You have a preference as far as Gibson versus Berrios?
Kyle Gibson chalk is so scary. But I mean, this lineup is not that scary just in general. Berrios, I mean, the Red Sox lineup, yeah, they're getting JD Martinez back. Don't get me wrong. And that obviously helps, but you got to attack Berrios with lefties. You really do. And unfortunately, the Red Sox, they're going to try to attack him with lefties with Jackie Bradley Jr. and Travis Shaw in there. They're just not good lefties. Jackie Bradley's actually better hitting against left-handed pitching. He's going to hit the ball on the ground. Verdugo hits the ball on the ground a ton against right-handed pitching. So, I mean, if he can get around Devers, I feel like that is like his main goal in this game is to get around Devers. And, you know, Devers could potentially hit a home run and he could still get there at 5,500. So, I mean, I think Berrios, if I had to play one of the two, it would be Berrios over Gibson. But I like Kyle Gibson here too. I hate the ownership being as high as it's going to potentially be here, but just looking at this lineup, there's a lot of strikeouts towards the bottom of the order. But I will say this, Dean, like the Colorado lineup is a lot better this year than it has been in the last few years. We got Chris Bryant, CJ Cron, Grichuk is another good righty. So there's a lot of power here. McMahon, Blackman, Joe. So it's not like this team where I feel like Colorado for the last couple seasons, it's like, oh, who's pitching against Colorado? Let's just instantly play that pitcher when they're on the road. This is a much better lineup. So I do think that with Gibson being popular, you could definitely play Berrios instead of Gibson. And honestly, you could find a little bit of money and maybe go up to Nathan Eovaldi, who's going to be pretty low owned here. He's kind of that like mid-range, large field tournament play that is boomer bust. But that lineup came out for Toronto, and it's kind of bad towards the bottom. Yeah, you got to get around Vlad, Bichette, and Springer. But the bottom half of that order, Chapman, 33% Ks, Zimmer, 36% Ks. So I don't mind Eovaldi, especially seeing what this Toronto lineup looks like.
Yeah, what do you would take there, TJ, as far as Eovaldi? Because he's kind of like lost because we have the two guys that are expensive up top, or several guys that are expensive up top. Bieber, you want to include Buehler, Max, Burns, if you're including all the games, obviously, and then the cheapies, Berrios and Gibson. But Eovaldi was like one of the best pitchers in baseball last year. Just kind of like went under the radar, despite the fact being a monster Red Sox. Not elite as far as Ks, but the Ks are fine, 26%. And the price is okay too. I don't like the ballpark necessarily, that top of the lineup. Kind of like the Angels, same deal. You don't really want to pick on those dudes, but you can get past them. It is baseball. You're supposed, like, more often than not, the most likely scenario is you're going to get the dude out. That's just how it goes. TJ, Eovaldi, what do you have on it?
You're muted, but while he's muted and fixes it, that Boston lineup came out and it does not look great.
So I have less of an Eovaldi take and I have more of a Kyle Gibson take. Like, he's not in my top 10 favorite pitchers tonight on DK. Like, he'd barely crack the pool for me. If he's like, the fact that he's getting ownership, no matter how many lineups I was playing, I think I'd just X him out. Like, I like Burns better, Scherzer better, Bieber better, Eovaldi better, Berrios better, Buehler better, Valdez, Lorenzo, Dunning, Michaelis. I'd rather play all of those guys over Kyle Gibson today. Yeah, I'm actually out on him.
Michaelis, you said?
Yeah, like, I'd rather play a 7,200 Miles Michaelis over a highly owned Gibson.
All right. Well, 7-6, but I get your point. Yeah. Michaelis is just like, he doesn't strike anybody out.
I looked at Kelly's price tag. That was my bad.
What were we looking at?
Merrill Kelly's price tag is 7.2 on DK.
Do you think that's interesting?
Not really, but it's more interesting than Gibson.
See, I would roster. I want to play Kelly before I'm rostering Michaelis, just because, like, you know, he's got more upside if he's actually on. I know the matchup's tough. I get it, but
yeah, I'm rostering Dodgers. Like, that's why I'm not getting there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what's your approach on FanDuel? You were talking about, like, your top guy obviously is Max. You're running 150. The next ownership, we're looking at 37% on Max, 17% on Biebs. Valdez at 15. I don't know if I like that. Framber Valdez at 15%. I probably wouldn't get that many if I was running 150. Did you have a take on that? I think that's too high, personally.
That's about where I'm getting. I got 13% Valdez right now. Okay. He's projecting really well in our RG projections, and so I feel like I got to look at some other stuff, maybe pull up Cardi's the bat and kind of see what he has there, and make some adjustments, because he's currently my second highest owned, which I don't love. I want to get to Buehler more than him. I think I'd rather get to Bieber more than him. So that's something I'm going to have to adjust a little bit, but I don't think it's that much too high.
They don't really let him go very deep. 84, 75, and 80 pitches his 3 starts this year. To be fair, he was getting hit pretty hard his last time out, so maybe there was room for growing on the 80 pitches, but you know, he's not a horse type that's going to throw 95 or 100 or something like that. Of course, they're not charging for that either. Worth noting, I saw the roof is open in Texas today, which generally is a good thing for hitting, but I also saw it was pretty cool in Arlington, like the 60s, high 60s, I think it was. I'll yield to Roth on something like that. By the way, Roth, late scratch, not going to be on crunch time. TheLuuch is going to jump in, and he's not going to do weather stuff for you, but he's going to be hosting. And again, if you guys are just joining us, y'all missed it. Dave Potts, Cheeseisgood. He's going to be on crunch time later, but he's also going to jump in right around 6 o'clock to give his thoughts, DK specific thoughts as far as what's going down in the Milwaukee San Francisco game, which starts at 6:10. This show takes you guys all the way up to the lock on FanDuel 707. Crunch time crew coming in around 6:30 or so. Stevie, your final words as far as pitching.
I just wanted to make a quick note that we don't have any like extreme pitchers or hitters umpires today. It's a very neutral day. So really just kind of looking at like your main guys. I will say that most books have Scherzer at 6.5 Ks and Bieber at 7.5 Ks. So, you know, the books are definitely favoring Bieber to get some strikeouts here. But yeah, overall, I want Burns and Scherzer as much as possible. When I'm not going those guys, I really like the ownership on Eovaldi, seeing this Toronto lineup. So I've kind of switched. I had a lineup that I really liked with Buehler, and I just switched that from Buehler to Eovaldi because I like that spot for him. I like this lineup for Toronto.
Did anybody catch the Angel Hernandez game last night by chance? Did you see the highlights of it?
I saw Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah. And Kyle Schwarber was like, look, this is not even just for me. This is for everybody. This is both sides who were horrific for Angel Hernandez, man. Jeez. It's an incredible union, the baseball umpire union. They're just never going to go away. It's wild they give him the spot on ESPN. That's like the feature game behind the plate. But yeah, I saw some of the highlights, if you want to call them that. And it was just the one to Segura that was like 7 inches inside on him, like almost hit him, that he called a strike was insane. And he was also striking dudes out, like on called third strikes like 5 or 6 times. Wild stuff. Yeah, just want some consistency. Yeah, like we said, Stevie, as far as the umpire, nothing really standing out. Some hitter stuff, some neutral stuff, and nothing extreme as according to the umpire data. TJ, take me through your final thoughts as far as Fanduel. Again, you're running out 150, like you said. Your biggest stand, like who's the one you're going to be significantly over and significantly under as far as current projected ownership?
So my biggest stand, I guess, I'm trying not to make any big pitcher stands tonight. My biggest one would be just getting overweight on the 1 to 2% owned guys who aren't picking up any ownership. My biggest stand today, though, is going to be batting. It's going to be the hitters. And that's where my biggest stand is coming in. And we got 205 people watching. We only have 35 likes. So get 50 and you get a Spidey bomb. But if we hit 75 today, that means we're going to have 2. That's less than half the people. We got this.
Spidey was fire. Spidey's not different Spidey.
Different Spidey. But we got something special in store for today if we hit 75. So I'm really hoping we get there because I thought of something fun.
I don't even know what it is. I'm curious. So now if the people just do it for me, if for nobody else.
I will say, Dean, you're gonna want to make sure you have your Zoom camera on or the YouTube up so that you can see me during it.
Okay. Did I miss something? Did Boston not have Trevor Story in that lineup and now he's out? Wasn't Story originally in the lineup and now I'm seeing not in the lineup?
He was in the projected lineup, I think.
Yeah, he wasn't in the actual lineup.
Okay, so that's what's going on here. Yeah, Story is not playing baseball today. I know it was a whole thing. Like supposedly, I mean, I know Boston and COVID and going into Toronto and some guys not getting their vax shots, but supposedly Story is vaccinated. So I that was like a big, supposedly that's one of the reasons why he almost didn't sign there, but apparently he did. And that's what's surprising why he's not playing today. Kike leading off for Dugo, Bogarts, Devers, Martinez, Bradley. That's JBJ. Whoa, when JBJ is batting 6th, you know their lineup's rough. Dahlback, Arroyo, and Plawecki, the weaker. Yeah, Stevie, you were right as far as that Boston lineup. That's not their best. They are getting JD back.
Both of those lineups, though, like realistically looking at both of those lineups are kind of rough today. Could be a good game to potentially bet the under on, if you're into that kind of thing.
It's a weird game because like they're two offenses that are fun to like get pieces of, and also two pitchers. This is like more of a DK thing to me. That Barrios seems too cheap, and I like Eovaldi. I feel like I want to like take a stand in my lineups, at least something of that game. It could certainly go like 3-4 with no homers and be uneventful, I guess. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to do with that. Stacks. I'll throw it to you, TJ. How are you making your lineup? So what sort of rules do you put in? You were talking about going 4-4, and I don't know. The counterpoint to that is that there is only 5 games on FanDuel where you're playing. Offense is severely down, and maybe just like home run hunting and getting 3 guys at homers on 3 different teams. I'm not saying go 1-1-1-1-1-1-1, but and of course only 5 games. Less likely one team puts up like 12 or 13 that you absolutely need to stack. What's your approach as far as making your lineups? What kind of rules do you have?
So I have it set right now in lineup HQ, 50% of my lineups to be 4-4s, 40% to be 4-3s, and 10% to be 10% to be 4-2s. I don't disagree with you that like hand building, trying to pick some home runs, if you hit that upside, it can be huge, but like that's still way harder to predict than just picking 2 teams to do well. And there actually are 2 teams today that stand out for me above the rest. And then the others I'm mostly looking to just sprinkle in and home run hunt from. But I'm getting way more than the field today on the Dodgers. I'm going to be probably even to above the field on the Bettses, the Freemans, and the top of that lineup. But I'm going to be heavily over the field on the bottom half of the Dodgers lineup today.
Muncy's going to draw a ton of, his ownership's got to be crazy, right? I don't agree with 26%. I think it'll be higher. He's available at both first and second, of course, utility as well. And he's 3.2K. It's the platoon advantage. I don't agree with that ownership. I think it'll be higher. We also have Trey Turner projected at 40%, Betts at 33, presumably leading off on the road, well positioned for those 5 AVs. Justin Turner seems too cheap. Bellinger, like I was told Bellinger stinks and will be out of the league in a couple of years. Turns out that's not true. He's got some power again. Look at that. He's still pretty cheap.
I don't know who told you that, Dean.
Twitter. Is Twitter wrong?
That's your fault for listening.
Do you agree with that ownership on Muncie? I think it'll be higher than 26, 27%.
Yeah, I think it'll maybe be a bit higher. And I think probably somebody like Trey Turner's could be a bit lower. That's probably the one Dodger I'm going to get a little less of, just because he's expensive and he's picking up a ton of ownership. And the guys like Bellinger and Justin Turner and Gavin Lux, my favorite player that nobody ever plays. Those are going to be the guys I'm going to be getting overweight on.
Are we sure Gavin Lux is good?
Yes, I'm positive.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I know he's a promising player and he's not a finished product just yet and all that kind of stuff. But all right, yeah, I sprinkle him in, but he's pretty cheap.
As it stands right now, Gavin Lux is my 5th highest owned hitter.
Maybe he's just been unlucky. I just pulled up his StatCast stuff, right? And the season, of course, is short, yada, yada. Average exit velocity, he's in the 91st percentile. Hard hit percentage in the 93rd percentile. Ex-WOBA, 100 percentile? Maybe Gavin Lux is like much better than I was giving credit for. How about that?
Gavin Lux is really, really good. And no one ever plays him because he's the least known guy on the Dodgers.
I'm just trying to see how unlucky he's been so
and
far.
He hits 9.
Yeah, but like when he's on the road, I don't care about that nearly as much.
Yeah.
Because you're when you're at home and you win 4-2 and you bat 8th, you're betting like 3 times sometimes, which is a big deal. Of course, you can homer twice in your first 3 at bats, but that's unlikely.
Yeah, and so like I'm obviously not saying Gavin Lux is a better player than Trey Turner, but it's a small slate, and we're projecting 1% ownership for Gavin Lux and 40% ownership for Trey Turner. So right now I have about 25% of both.
I like that. Stevie, your thoughts as far as stacks today? Do you agree with the Dodgers? Give me some pivots away from the Dodgers. I think, was it you that referenced the Phillies? That's, of course, DK only, but I like the Phillies as well. What do you have for me?
Yeah, Phillies, Dodgers, my favorite 2 teams. I love Cleveland today. They're a team that I love this matchup against Lorenzen. There's some cheap bats in this lineup where you can use them as like secondary stacks. Really, the only person that's getting, any kind of ownership, I think Ramirez and Reyes are the only 2 guys that are getting any type of ownership here. But so if I'm using them as a 3 or 4 man secondary stack, it'd be interesting to see where we project Josh Naylor as far as his ownership goes here, because it'd be a 3, 4, 5 type of 3-man, and Naylor's super cheap. And he has multiple position eligibility on DraftKings. So I love Cleveland. I love Houston. It's just really hard to stack them. When you're just looking at it, Alvarez and Tucker, but then like if you do Brantley, that gives you 3 outfielders. Pena is so expensive. Bregman is expensive at 3rd. Gary L is not someone I love to stack because he's not a guy that typically has a ton of upside. So as much as I like Houston, it's just really tough to like fully stack them. And I ended up using like Alvarez and Tucker as more one-off plays. Love the ownership here that Alvarez is going to have against Dane Dunning.
You guys hit on a couple of players that are going to be very, very popular in cash games. I think Franmil Reyes on Fanduel specifically is like 2.5 or 2.6, which just seems really, really too cheap. Not a lot of power in that Cleveland lineup. No Quan today for what it's worth. Not that he's a big power guy, but he's dealing with an injury. But Straw leading off, which is, he's going to walk a little bit and he doesn't strike out a ton, but he's not this great hitter. But it's J-Ram and Reyes that they're 2 clear best hitters. And I don't mind Naylor for little power either as well against Lorenzen, who's, I'm not sold on as a particularly good pitcher necessarily. Good hitting pitcher. We'll give him that. And Kyle Tucker hasn't been amazing so far this year. And he's super, super cheap on FanDuel. I think he's 2.9 on FanDuel. On DK, he's too cheap as well. But yeah, Kyle Tucker is still batting 6. They're starting McCormick tonight at the leadoff spot. Pena dropped all the way to the 9 hole. What do you think of the Astros, TJ? And what do you think of that lineup? And to Stevie's point, like I don't like playing Gurriel as like a general thought. I don't like playing Brantley as like a general thought. Those guys, bad one-offs in my head, but I guess they just kind of keep the line moving. They're good like hitters for baseball, but not great for DFS. How do you handle the Astros tonight?
Yeah, so Brantley's been hitting the ball pretty well so far this year, but obviously larger sample size. That's absolutely the case. Houston's my second favorite stack of the night, And yes, it's tough because a lot of the players you want to play are in the outfield, but where does that lead me with all my other positions? To the Dodgers, because I can play multiple different Dodgers at first, second, third, short. So because of that, I really like getting Houston today. And on FanDuel, their prices are nice and cheap. You got Bregman 3,400. That's probably a cash game play. McCormick leading off is 2,200. Alvarez 3,500. So yeah, they're my second favorite stack of the night to the Dodgers.
Let's go around the horn quickly. We'll probably play the stack game later on as well. And you guys know Dave Potts coming in about 15 minutes or so. He'll give us thoughts as far as the Milwaukee game. It starts at 6:10 on the DK slate. Got to roster yourself a catcher on DraftKings, Stevie. You don't have to roster one on FanDuel. Do you have somebody you like at catcher, Stevie? I don't know if I want to delegate the funds like a Will Smith or a JT Realmuto. Like, I'm fine with them, sure, especially if you're stacking it up. As far as like a cash lineup, that's probably not where I'm going to get. What are your thoughts as far as catcher?
Who's the cheapest catcher on the slate? Thomas Nitto. Done. I like, we're laughing, but I actually do have him in I think 2 of my 3 lineups. Jason Castro. I think if you're paying up for anybody today, it's Mitch Garver. He profiles amazing against Valdez. He is a guy that hits sinkers very well, and Valdez is going to use his sinker quite a bit. So I think if you want to pay up and try to get a home run from a catcher today, it's probably Garver or Will Smith. But listen, this is a position today that is, if you're not playing Realmuto or Will Smith or Garver, just absolutely just punt. Like, all the punts stink. All the punts are in bad positions. Jason Castro at least gets Dane Dunning.
I was gonna say, if you have the salary, go up from Nido to Jason Castro, because like Castro at least still has a 223 ISO against righties. He that's the only reason he's in there. He can hit home runs against them. So that's, I think, to me, definitely the punt catcher play on DK.
Yeah, but the problem with Castro is I don't think he's someone that like they're afraid to like lose him behind the plate, so he could be pinch hit for.
I think it's swapping Maldonado at the end of defensive replacement. And
so you could potentially only get 2-3 at bats from Castro, but listen, at 2.3K, it doesn't matter if you get 2 or 3 at bats. I mean, catcher stinks today, Dean, and this is something I talk about all the time. I love punting catcher. Caratini against Long and that like bullpen type of game. Sure, like. Yeah, catcher saving money. Who can I save money? Like Alejandro Kirk getting a ton of ownership is the easiest fade on the slate for me. If he homers, then it happens. But the fact that he's getting projected for 27% ownership, I think that changes too with Castro in the lineup against Dunning. I think we see a lot of that. Not a lot, but we see Castro 15% here.
I kind of like the Husky Kirk, and that's your boy for Toronto, for the Blue Jays. You like Alejandro there, TJ?
He's fine. They got an even better catcher coming up in the system, so I'm not getting too attached.
Who's that?
Oh, geez, I don't even remember his name right now.
Is he the son of like another former like great major league player?
No, not this one.
Brian McCann Jr.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure Jeff Conine's kid is in the Toronto system as well.
Gabriel Moreno, that's the Blue Jays' top prospect.
There you go.
He's a catcher in AAA.
All right. You have a thought, TJ? I mean, you're playing on FanDuel. I'm assuming you're not grabbing many catchers. I guess Will Smith.
Will Smith is in my player pool, and I'm getting quite a bit amount of them. And Jason Castro is actually also in my pool for some Astro stacks. And then a little Mitch Garver in Texas stacks and a little Max Stassi in LA stacks.
Stevie, you know the deal. I know what's the philosophy of like ground ball pitchers versus like fly ball. You're talking about how Garver profiles good against Valdez. Valdez, of course, incredible ground ball pitcher, 70%. We talked about it earlier. But isn't there some sort of advantage if you're a fly ball guy facing a ground ball? Isn't that one of the things that people talk about? Is that what you're talking about as far as the matchup, Garver versus Valdez?
Well, yeah, it's a huge advantage. If you're a fly ball hitter against a ground ball pitcher, think about like that. And like, it's just, if you're a ground ball hitter facing a fly ball pitcher, you're going to see more line drives. If you're a fly ball hitter against a ground ball pitcher, you're going to see more line drives. And at the end of the day, you want to see more line drives. So like Garver, he's a fly ball hitter, but when we like look at just like pitch type for Garver, his numbers 446 WOBA, 300 ISO, 65% hard hit rate, 95 exit velocity on average against sinkers. So like he just everything, like he really popped on my model today. Just, you know, in my model, I like a lot of batted ball profile stuff, and he popped today for sure.
46% fly balls for Garver. Marcus Semien also leading off 51.4% as far as some fly balls. Let's jump to first base. TJ, I'll let you start first base for us, and feel free to touch on. I know you're playing on Fanduel. You're not talking about the first two games, but feel free to touch on those first two games. I like Rhys Hoskins on the DK slate for what it's worth, but what do you have as far as first?
So first on Fanduel, kind of your cash play is most likely Max Muncy, unless you're going to be playing him at second base. Freddie Freeman at 4K, I like him as well. Two guys that aren't going to pick up much ownership, one a lot less than the other, that I think have a good chance of hitting home runs tonight. Vladimir Guerrero, obviously, as well as Pete Alonso. No one's going to play Pete Alonso, but he's a fly ball hitter against a ground ball pitcher like we talked about, and it's a ground ball pitcher that strikes no one out. So I like Pete Alonso to at just absolutely no ownership. Jared Walsh, I think, is an interesting one-off, or with kind of a 1-2-3 Trout, Ohtani, Walsh stack. But that's about it on FanDuel. It's a pretty tight position for me there. On DK, not much different, to be honest. It's basically the same. Rhys Hoskins at only 5-1, I agree, is pretty solid. But if you want to take a shot on someone cheap on DK, Owen Miller for Cleveland, batting 6, 3,500. But other than that, it's really just the expensive guys I already mentioned.
Dodgers lineup is out. It's Betts, Freeman, Trey Turner, Muncy, Justin Turner, Will Smith, Bellinger, Chris Taylor is DHing, and your boy Lux is batting 9th. But that's okay, because he's still going to get those 4 at bats, because the Dodgers are going to get, 9 combined hits and walks and errors, I think. So I think
the Dodgers hate me, man. No Rios, and Rios not DHing, and Taylor DHing. Now I got to go rework lineups.
Why did you want Rios?
Because he was 2,200 on DraftKings.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't know his price.
Yeah, he was really cheap.
First base, Stevie?
Freddie Freeman. Done. Move on. I mean, Freeman and Hoskins on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, Freeman. Like, I think first base, you're a lot of opportunity costs if you're not paying up at first base today. Between Freeman and Hoskins, Ohtani, yeah, you could play Ohtani in the outfield as well, but just looking at like the cheap bats today, there's nothing that I like on the cheap side of things. Yeah, Josh Naylor, much rather would have him in the outfield than at first base. So I think Hoskins and Freeman just way above everybody else today. And like I said, I think there's a huge opportunity cost to pay down at first base today.
Yeah, I agree. First base feels really loaded. Muncy, Freeman, Guerrero, Walsh, Dahlbeck, he's another power guy. Nobody's going to play Goldie. He's you could certainly do it. Sure, why not? He's got the ability to homer off of Scherzer. Nobody's going to play him. We have 2% ownership basically on FanDuel. And Alonso, geez, TJ, I think you mentioned that Alonso at 1% currently projected on FanDuel. It's going to be probably higher than that, but not much higher than that. That seems like a pretty good spot to face, like you said, a pitcher in Mikolas who's just not going to throw the ball by him.
Yeah, exactly. I like him a lot tonight, and I'm definitely going to be above the field on that 1%. There's lots of guys like that where I don't love the team as a full stack, but I like one-off. So that's one of the reasons I'm so heavy on the Dodgers and Astros today, because those are really the only teams that I like the full stack. Everybody else I just like pieces of.
Stevie, start us off at the second base keystone position. Who's popping for you?
I mean, Muncy would be the best. I don't know where we're getting his potential ownership at 6% on DraftKings. Maybe it's because of his price, but I think he's clearly the best second baseman today. I like Segura a lot. I think we'll see some people pay down for like Diaz in this spot. He's pretty cheap, but I mean, just looking at my lineups, like a lot of Muncy, a lot of Lux. One team, like my Cleveland stack. Owen Miller, 3,500. He's off to a really hot start this season. He's getting Lorenzen, so definitely like him in my Cleveland stack. Using him as that like fourth or fifth man in the Cleveland stack, I think is fun.
TJ, second.
Yeah, same boat. I'm definitely all about the Dodgers guys. Somebody that I think is somewhat interesting for tournaments, another player for Texas that doesn't really hit a lot of ground balls against lefties, is Marcus Semien leading off. So I think he's interesting. But my three highest owned are going to be those three Dodgers. Escobar to me is interesting with Alonso and kind of a mini stack. Four Dodgers, I guess, because Chris Taylor as well. But the four Dodgers are going to be my four highest owned guys at second. And then Escobar, Kettle Marte, and on the cheap side, Cano and Diaz are really where I'm looking there.
Start us off on third. We should have Dave Potts, Cheeseisgood, coming in momentarily, next few minutes or so, to touch on, again, if you guys are just joining us, two different slates. DraftKings starts at 6-ish, 6:10, I believe, is the Milwaukee start, and then Fanduel early 7 o'clock. And, Dave's going to be on later for crunch time around 6:30, but he's jumping on early. He's going to give his thoughts as far as the Milwaukee game. Third base, TJ, hot corner, what do you have?
Well, we have over 50 likes, and so it's time for our first Spidey bomb of the day. And my Spidey bomb here, I got 3 Spideys ready to roll with us. This isn't the special one at 75 likes, but it's Rafael Devers. That's probably my favorite player at third base today, and I think he's going to hit a bomb over off Berrios. And I still like Berrios tonight, but I really, really like Rafael Devers. I don't think we're currently projecting him for like 25% ownership. I don't even know if he's going to get that much because we still have Jose Ramirez, who's a great play, $100 more. You have Alex Bregman at $3,400, a great play that with just a broken price tag. So those three are without a doubt my favorite at that position, followed by Justin Turner. Really like Justin Turner as well. And I think another sneaky home run play, if you're looking for it, I think Arenado can maybe get one off of Scherzer because he's not somebody that strikes out often at all. And when Scherzer get hit, sometimes it's pretty hard. So I don't mind that call.
Is that from Spidey or is that from you? The Arenado one, you still have that's from your
no. That's you can sprinkle that in. But the Spidey bomb call is Rafael Devers,
the official Spidey board. And like, what happens at 75 likes? What are you promising the people?
75 likes. We're getting a second one, but it's going to be fun in the way I present it.
Is it going to be more ambitious than Rafael Devers?
Yeah.
Okay. Spidey
doesn't always have to be ambitious.
Spidey just wants the W, man. All right. Hey, we're going to talk to Cheese in just a second, but I do want to ask how much do you care about running your pitcher against your hitter? And when you put your build rules in, do you max it at 1? Do you put it at 0, TJ, as far as your the lineup builder?
Unless it's like a 3-game slate or smaller, I always set it at 0. If I absolutely adore a lineup and the last one off in it is a home run hitter against my pitcher, I maybe won't change it, but I typically like not doing it unless it's a small slate.
We should have the voice of Dave Potts. Y'all know him as Cheeseisgood, 2-time millionaire winner. You know such things as the $1 Million Musings. You'll know him such things as Crunch Time in like 30 minutes or so. But Dave is going to grace us, I was going to say with his presence, just his voice. Dave, are you with us?
I am with it. I was wondering what voice I should use. I will just use the regular voice. Just this once.
Did you buy Twitter today? I saw the Twitter domain. You were trying to see if that was available.
I did. Yeah, I got it for $69.99. I heard all this. Hey, someone's buying Twitter. I went to GoDaddy and it was like, hey, you may be able to acquire this.
Dave, appreciate you jumping on early. Again, we keep explaining how the two different sites, two different start times. We want to get your thoughts as far as Milwaukee and San Francisco, what to do with that game. If you want to touch on Colorado, Philadelphia, actually, no, you'll be on later. You'll be on plenty of time to talk about that as well. But yeah, that slate starts in 10 minutes on DraftKings. Is Corbin Burns good at throwing baseballs?
So, I mean, my big overall thought on this is if Corbin Burns and Scherzer were the exact same salary, we would be playing Burns. I mean, we would be playing Scherzer too, right? I mean, you can play them both. You should play them both. But I think Burns would be the slightly more popular. I think he's the slightly better pitcher. The matchup is a little riskier power-wise for him, but it's a little better for strikeouts. I just think there are so many ways to save salary on DK at any position you want. I think you should be higher on Burns than Scherzer, given that Scherzer is going to be the chalk because of the salary. It's nothing. I'm not anti-Scherzer at all. I think, like you guys have been saying, like play both. That should be your first sort of objective. But if you can only get one, I mean, there's so many ways to save that $900. I'm on Burns ahead of Scherzer. With, again, by all means, play both of these guys. But that salary difference, it's so noticeable that it's going to just bring the Scherzer ownership just higher than it needs to be, ahead of a guy who is better at this stage of his career. Like Scherzer he's still great, but he's on the downswing. Burns is still on the upswing. We don't even know how good he's going to be, but it's great already.
How are you handling that double barrel? You talk about as far as the pitchers, Burns, of course, like the best arm on the slate. Scherzer not far behind. And then, there's other guys like Bueller. There's other guys like Bieber. And then you have two really cheap dudes on DK if you want to open stuff up. It's a tricky pitcher build. I imagine. I'm not really sure how I'm handling it. And for now, I'm just like locking in Burns like in 80% of my lineups, and I'll figure it out when I get off air. But there's a lot of pitching options.
Yeah, I'll tell you where I've gotten to is I don't even think it's tricky at all. I'm not playing. I have 0 Bueller and 0 Bieber on DraftKings. I don't even know what we're doing with these guys. Like, what's the point? They're not as good as Burns and Scherzer, period. Like, they're not. It doesn't mean they can't possibly have as good a game tonight, but like, you're being goofy if you're trying to come up with a reason why either of them are better than Burns or Scherzer. They're just not. And Berrios is only 5,500, which is just goofy. Like, Berrios and Walker Bueller are basically the same guy. They really are. And one of them's 5,500. So just play that one. And Stevie's mentioned a couple of times Eovaldi. Yeah, I think he's the mid-tier guy that I like him as much as Bieber, just raw points, and there's a $1,600 difference. So if I'm trying to save money, I'll play Eovaldi instead of Bieber. And then same, I like Kyle Gibson as much as Bueller. But I don't love Kyle Gibson either. I think just play Berrios and save that money. So basically Burns, Scherzer, maybe a little Eovaldi in the mid-tier, or just go cheap and play Berrios. I don't think you need to goof around here.
You got any thoughts as far as the Milwaukee? I mean, you talk San Fran, obviously, and if you want to, I know your leverage word, but like, I think this is real leverage. Like, if you want to play San Fran is walloping again, man. They just keep doing it. Jock Peterson, I can't play Jock Peterson. He's going to get pulled in the 7th. Well, he has 2 home runs already. Take him out. I don't care. I'm already way ahead when the lefty comes in. Yeah. Your thoughts as far as the sticks in this game? We're seeing a pretty cheap Renfroe, pretty cheap McCutchen, 3.3 leading off. You talk about some salary savers. Those are some options. I don't know if I'm doing that on air. They're fine.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, in general, I love the Giants. Like, this is the greatest baseball team ever. They were last year and they are this year, and I love them, but you don't need to do it against Corbin Burns. You just don't. I guess when I first looked at the slate and looked at these prices on Milwaukee, I was thinking this can be a really chalky team because of how cheap McCutchen and Renfroe especially are, and then throw in Keston here. You've got the cheap catcher that you need. I'm playing a bunch of Renfroe. Just keeping in mind that they're not really facing Sammy Long. Like, they're facing a bullpen game, so it'll be more righties than lefties. So don't like be overexcited about, it's against the lefty. It's not really. But 3,400 for Renfroe. I mean, yeah, I'm playing him. And I don't think this team is going to be popular at all. I think Philly will be popular, even though they're expensive, and they should be. But I think you want, if you're multi-entering on DraftKings, I think you want to get at least a couple mini stacks with like the cheap middle of the lineup. There's not a lot of high upside offense on this slate anywhere. And you could just do all Dodgers, Astros, and Phillies. I mean, that's the obvious top 3. But after that, I think Milwaukee's probably next in line.
TJ, Stevie, you got anything for Dave before we let him go and rest up and come back in 20 minutes?
I don't think so.
Hey, the first Spidey bomb was fantastic. And hey, by the way, hi, Stevie. I don't think I've seen you yet this year. Wonderful to see you.
That's good. I'm working on the schedule for May's morning grind schedule. So I'll schedule you one so we can catch up.
Cool. So, well, you guys, get back to it, and I'll be crunch timing in about 30 minutes here.
Sounds good. We'll see yourself. We'll see Justin Carlucci. We'll see Will, Chief Justice. Appreciate it, Dave. Thanks for popping in. were we on third base or shortstop? I don't recall. I think we knocked out third and we're jumping to shortstop. Does that sound correct, TJ?
Yes,
you didn't let me talk about Jose Ramirez.
Well, by all means. Sorry.
Like I need to put my foot down really quick. I think he's the best hitter on the slate tonight. So listen, play Jose Ramirez. There you go. Yeah, Devers, Justin Turner. There's my third base thoughts, team. There you go.
Yeah,
really quick though.
My bad. Go ahead.
No, just really quick. Like third base, another position like first base, where I think the opportunity cost to punt. You're giving up a lot because, I mean, there's 3-4 third basemen that could go for 20 plus Draftkings points tonight. So I think the opportunity cost that you're losing a lot at third base if you're saving. And we're seeing Diaz at like 21%. I think that's more second base than third base. I think we see a lot of people, Ramirez, Muncy, Devers, Turner at third base today.
I meant to ask Davey if he would play Devers against Barrios on DK. I think I would. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to load up Boston guys against him, obviously, but I think he's cheap enough in Devers as like a one-off. I have no issue with that. I guess that breaks your rules, TJ. You kind of talked about it, how on a 3-game slate, but 5-game or 7-gamer, it's too much for you?
I mean, not really. It's just not something I really think about that much. Like if it happens naturally, great. But like that's not really something I'm spending too much thought energy over.
Okay, yeah, okay. So you wouldn't restrict the rule. You wouldn't go out of your way to restrict that rule to make sure it doesn't happen, but you're not going out of your way to make it happen, obviously.
Well, like in lineup HQ, it naturally has max batters versus opposing pitchers set at 0 unless you change it. So I typically don't change it. But if I'm hand building and it lines up, then sometimes it happens.
There you go. I'll bump it up to 1 if it's a really short slate, and I'm just kind of messing around and seeing what sort of.
It's just basically like if I'm playing Barrios, I would rather play Jose Ramirez than Rafael Devers. In the lineups that I don't have Barrios, that's when I'll play Devers.
Sure. All right. Do we TJ, you give your final thoughts as far as third base? You want to jump to shortstop?
Yeah, we can jump to short. So shortstop, obviously you're back to your Dodgers with Turner and Lux and some of the other players we've already mentioned at second. But other players you got Bo Bichette, who still he's been starting to pick it up a little bit, and he's still way too cheap on FanDuel. My lineup HQ on my laptop's freezing on me here, but there we go. Francisco Lindor is somebody you can mini stack with Alonso, but definitely not my top play there. It's really the Dodgers are far and away the top spots for me there. If you want to get somebody like Mlb Diaz in your stack, that's totally fine. But the very vast majority of my ownership is going to be going to the Dodgers.
Dodger team total has jumped throughout the day. It was under 5 earlier, and now it's at 5.28 for what it's worth. I'm not sure if that's reactionary to the lineup or if the roof is open in Arizona. I have not seen anything on that, but just kind of sort of somewhat interesting. Is there anybody else close to 5? Houston 4.3, Toronto 4.1, Boston 3.8. Well, Philadelphia is almost at 5. That's DK only, obviously, but man, San Fran is a team total less than 3. Hey, in a second, maybe we can pull up to see what the ownership is on Corbin Burns on DK. I'm kind of curious how popular he's going to be.
Roof is open in Arizona.
There you go. Does that matter to you a lot? I think it matters a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's probably the best hitting conditions on the slate. It's open the next 3 days for what it's worth.
Joe Madden's doing his thing. You guys want to guess the leadoff hitter for the Angels?
Mike Trout.
Well, no, not him.
I mean, you asked.
I know. Well, yeah, but yeah, he's got.
Walsh. Is it Walsh?
It's not Walsh. No.
All right, last guess. Joe Odell.
It's not Odell. He's batting 7.
All right. Well, then I have no idea.
Taylor Ward.
There you go. Did somebody cheat, or is that your guess?
No, I cheated.
Well, yeah. Well, the game's less fun.
Well, we had like 4 guesses already. It already was like the game was over.
I just guessed all the big strikeout guys. That's all.
If it was the feud, you would have been the family to steal. Yeah, Ward, Ohtani, Trout, Walsh, Rendon, Duffman, Adele, Stassi, and Wade. That is the lineup for the Angels today. Ooh, did we talk? Okay, we talked about shortstop. I apologize. I'm all over the place now. I think we got to jump to the outfield. Stevie,
do you want me to talk about shortstop, or are you just gonna skip over me for 2 positions in a row?
I apologize.
That's what I'm saying. We don't gotta be playing this game. We can just let Stevie talking about the positions.
No, it's fun. I love giving Dean a hard time. Dean is one of my favorite people at RG. For anybody that ever thinks that I give him crap, I like Dean a lot. He's my wife's favorite person at Rotogrinders. So
what? Really?
Yeah. Katie loves Dean. So all right. I mean, it's Trey Turner or Punt. Like Bo Bichette, you were talking about Bo Bichette. He profiles terrible against Eovaldi. Eovaldi ground ball rate is really high against righties. Bichette's a ground ball hitter. You really need to target Bo Bichette against fly ball pitchers, and you're just not getting that tonight with Eovaldi. So I think if you're not paying up for Trey Turner or Francisco Lindor just to be different, I think you're just punting shortstop. Willie Adames is kind of in that mid-range. You could play him. But the guy that I kind of end up on punting is Camargo. He's a cheap part of that Philly stack. Freeland is a guy that gives up home runs. Camargo has a lot more power from the right side of the plate than the left side of the plate. So he's just kind of someone on that list. And I think on FanDuel, didn't you say on FanDuel you could play Lux at shortstop?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of an option if you're playing over on FanDuel. You can look at Lux. Jimenez is someone you could potentially play on FanDuel if you're punting. I think he's 21 and part of that Cleveland stack. So, I mean, shortstop, I think, is a position you can kind of save some money if you're not playing Turner or Lindor.
TJ, how many more likes do we need, TJ, to get your gimmick 75 homers that I don't know, may or may
3 away. We're 3 away. Don't call it a gimmick, Dean. This is real, important, hard-hitting analysis.
It is Spider-Man for real giving you these picks. You know a guy.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, fair enough. By the way, the single entry contest on DK, the battery, which is 121 to enter, I have the ownership on Corbin Burns. What do you want to guess there, TJ? Roster 2 pitchers, of course, on DK.
55%.
Single entry contest, more or less than that, Stevie?
Less.
Stevie wins. He doesn't win both showcase showdowns. He's far enough away, but 49.6%. Yeah, a lot of pitching options there at single entry. I thought it'd be a little bit higher, to be honest, but yeah, I'm good with that. I'm a little bit above the field, I think, on my Burns that we have on DK tonight. We kind of touched on it, TJ, as far as some outfielders, especially some prices kind of point you in that direction. Kyle Tucker seems too cheap. Franmil Reyes seems too cheap. Cody Bellinger seems too cheap, especially on DK. Reyes, especially on FanDuel. What's popping for you in the outfield? I guess you're going to like yourself some Betts and some Dodgers. And Corbin Burns struck out Peterson with his first at bat.
Love it. So, yeah, if you are looking for cash games, single entry, something close to optimal, you got Kyle Tucker's way too cheap. Franmil Reyes way too cheap, like we talked about. Yordan Alvarez at 3,500 is probably one of your best mid-range option. And if you're spending up, your Dodgers are the top there, but you can always pay for Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. So those are 2 guys who probably aren't going to pick up a ton of ownership because of who they're playing, but they're still 2 of the very best hitters in baseball. Alex Verdugo is somebody that I don't mind mini stacking with Devers. I talked about not liking a full stack for Boston, but I don't mind the 2 lefties in the mini stack. And Bellinger, I absolutely love too. And as we go down here, I don't know what's going on with my laptop today, but it is really, really not fond of lineup HQ. So that's okay. We can go off the top of the head. Chas McCormick is leading off for Houston, and that's somebody that's interesting as well. But you wanted somebody sneakier, Dean, and we've hit the 75 likes. The crazy thing, Dean, is that you talked about liking him on DK because of how cheap he is. But this is somebody that is getting 1% ownership on FanDuel. And so
here it is.
What we have here, Spidey's ready to make the call himself. He didn't want to leave it to somebody else. So Cody Bellinger is going to be hitting a bomb off of Merrill Kelly today. We currently have him projected for 1% ownership. That's just ridiculous. He's probably going to be a little above that, but Cody Bellinger is hitting 7th, so no one's playing him. And like I said, this second half of the Dodgers lineup, that's my favorite stack of the day because they're not picking up the ownership and they still have very, very high upside. So Cody Bellinger hitting a bomb tonight. You heard it from Spidey himself.
Theoretically, hypothetically, would you have something prepared for 100 tweets? I don't know how you can top that. Do you have a like a lightsaber available, or is that mixing the universes? We can't do that. I don't know. What sort of
whatever the people want. If whatever the people want, as long as it's appropriate. If we hit 100, we'll get it done.
If it's inappropriate, that's premium. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's you got to go to the Rotogrinders OnlyFans page for that.
Stevie, a slew of outfielders were threw out there. Who catches your eye? Who's some of your favorites?
Well, I can't be outdone. So, I mean, Josh Naylor, he's going yard today. You heard it first from the racing moment. So, anyway, this thing is so tight. Oh, it's so tight. Anyway, no, I love Naylor. All joking aside, I love Reyes. I mean, my outfielders are really going to be parts of my stacks outside of probably Alvarez, just because, like I said, it's kind of tough to stack Houston on DraftKings. Sorry. But I mean, Castellanos, Bellinger, Betts, Alvarez, Tucker, Naylor, guys that I'm really looking at here. And I mean, it goes without saying, as much as we've talked about the Dodgers today, just how much I love Cody Bellinger. He's off to a really strong start this season, and I think he's healthy. And we talked about this on the morning grind. Cody Bellinger didn't stink last year. He just wasn't 100%, I think, all year, and he is 100%. He looks great at the plate. So really, really like Cody Bellinger here. So I love that call. But yeah, all the Dodgers, all the Phillies, all like Naylor, just, man, he's so cheap. And it's not even like Josh Naylor has been off to a slow start. He's been hitting the ball. There's no reason that he should be 2.5 on FanDuel and DraftKings today. At least Yahoo. Like if you're playing on Yahoo, he's a little bit priced up over there.
I was scrambling to play along. I got a UCF helmet, but I don't think this is pretty sure this is not big enough. This will not fit my head. I got a Magic 8-Ball. It's a lot of fun. You can ask Magic 8-Ball questions. Never wrong. Nitro is just chilling here, mascot for UCF. And if you get out of line, we got Walter White just kind of lurking. He is the danger if you're not aware.
Mine came with like a price. It's like there's like a little thing inside of there and like scratched my whole face. So was not ready for that.
Is that for just riding a motorcycle? Is that what that was?
No, it's so when Kyle Busch won me a lot of money a few years ago, I donated to his foundation and they sent me a helmet.
Oh, cool. All right. Nice. Wasn't aware. We are going to be here for the next 7 minutes or so. Do you want to answer some of your questions in chat? I know producer Steve has pulled some and thrown them my way. Devin is lurking on the YouTube. Hit that like button. Do subscribe. Ask us any sort of overarching questions. If you're debating this guy versus that guy, we're happy to answer that stuff too. And of course, you also can ask your question in the, in the old Rotogrinders Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Jump in the live stream chat channel. TheLuuch, Justin Carlucci, will be taking your questions soon enough with Will, Chief Justice. I'm sure he'll have some props he likes out there also. And then Dave Potts, you guys got your beak wet with him. He'll be joining the crew later on in about 6 minutes, give or take, taking you guys straight up to the FanDuel lock. By the way, I see you multitasking, Stevie. You're on Twitter. You're talking to Radbad. Look at you. You're all over the place doing all sorts of things. Doing a show, multitasking, tweeting.
Dean, I've been doing this for a long time. Like, I've been doing this for... I've been doing this for a long time. I got this. Like morning grinds on year 7, and I did GrindersLive before morning grinds. So I'm probably on year 8 or 9 doing GrindersLive. So I think I can multitask.
Let's play this stack game, Stevie. I'm going to throw a team your way. You tell me 5, you absolutely love them. 1, you hate them. 3, you're somewhere in the middle. That goes down. If you're stacking up Boston, you're a Boston Red Sox. Put a number on them.
With this lineup, 1. I mean, I don't mind some one-offs here, but this lineup overall, I think that you're not stacking them today.
TJ?
I agree. It's a 1 for me.
All right. Not big fans on the Rockies, on the Red Sox. How about the Rockies, though? TJ, I'll let you start playing the stack game. Same deal. Put a number on them.
I'll go 3 just because I am not even playing on DK today, so I don't even really know, to be honest with you. But you made some good points talking about their improved lineup this year, so I'll go 3.
Stevie?
I think anytime Kyle Gibson is chalk, you should, if you're playing a bunch of teams, stack against him. So for that, I'll say 3. Love the ownership. Don't think Colorado is going to be popular. I only play 3 teams on DraftKings, so yeah, I'm not going to stack them today. But I think if you are playing 150 on DraftKings, you definitely want to have a few Colorado stacks in there.
17 pitches, 2 strikeouts, no runs for Burns the first inning. If Fanduel specific questions, I'll give this to you, TJ. I'm not playing this dude. I'm not playing 150 lineups either. Lorenzen as SP. I like saying SP1 on Fanduel, like a default. Got to be SP1, right? I'm not playing Lorenzen. You might sprinkle him in maybe if you're 150. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to be sprinkling him in just based on he's probably going to be like 2-3% owned. And so I'm probably going to have probably about 5 to 8% of them tonight.
All right, Stevie, pull up DK. Let's see. We want a starting pitcher that's 15% owned, give or take, for tournaments.
Eovaldi.
You like? Yeah, I think that's a pretty good call. And yeah, of course, you can't take Burns down. Also, he's above 15%. So that's kind of a worthless question that I would ask anyway. A couple more stacks. Hey, Stevie, you want to fire off some homers? Who's I don't know if you have Spider-Man lurking or who else is by your side, but anybody that can help you. If you have a lifeline you want to call, feel free to call Thad. But whatever you have, give me some homers today.
Brad Thad, another OG man. Expensive home run, give me Jose Ramirez. Middle home run, give me Franmil Reyes, and my cheap home run today, Josh Naylor.
I'm going to take Hoskins as, I guess, the expensive one. Hoskins going yard. Let's see. I'll give you a couple more in a second as I'm asking some questions. Do you put a 5, TJ, on that Dodger stack?
Yeah.
Let's see if we have anything on Weather Edge. Is Weather Edge?
I borderline say a 4 for the first half of their lineup, but a 5 for the bottom half.
Who's
just
your
based
favorite?
on ownership?
Is it Lux your favorite hitter in the bottom half?
Bellinger.
Okay.
Yeah, Bellinger.
Stevie, your thoughts as far as the Dodgers? If you're going to put a number on it, and you factor in ownership and everything, if you want to factor that into.
5.
How about Houston, Stevie?
Gosh, so I like Houston. I love the spot for Houston, but it's a really tough team, I think, to stack today, roster construction wise. So, I mean, the spot, I would say like a 4 or 5, but considering roster construction and all that stuff, I have to go like a 2. I like Alvarez and Tucker, not Turner, as like one-off plays. But yeah, overall, I just think they're a really tough team to stack today.
TJ?
They're a 4 for me. I like just how well they pair with the Dodgers. So yeah, they're a 4.
We kind of mentioned it, TJ, as far as Taylor Ward is leading off there for the Angels. How much are you embracing that? How much that muck things up for you? Are you okay with it? How much Ward are you going to play now? What are you doing with your Angel stacks and put a number on them?
Doesn't really impact anything for me. I will put him as a 2.
Yeah.
I like the Angels a lot more for one-offs than for stacks.
Yeah. Stevie, you have a thought there as far as the Angels?
No, I'm not stacking the Angels tonight.
Let's see. What other team is worth mentioning? Like, Scherzer's going to be really, really popular, especially on FanDuel. TJ, are you going to play any leverage stuff as far as the Cardinals, or same deal as like the Burns treatment? Like, what's the point of messing with it? Maybe you get a one-off. Historically, lefty power, he'll yield a homer here or there, but he's probably not going to get blown up. Cardinals, it's only a 5-game slate, so you can embrace this stuff more so the less games. What do you do with the Cardinals, if anything?
Well, I mean, I'd be more willing to do it against Scherzer today than Burns, just based on the Cardinals are a better lineup. So I don't mind the idea of a Edman, Goldschmidt, Arenado type mini stack, because all of them are very good hitters, but it's not something I think you got to do today. It's like something I will have a slight amount of because I'm playing 150, but it's definitely not a target.
That's pretty much where I'm at too. You feel the same way, Stevie, as far as the Cardinals?
Yeah, I'm not landing on the Cardinals today.
Couple more before, again, the crunch time guys should be knocking on the door. Get your questions loaded there. If you want to see what Will, Chief Justice, his thoughts is as far as the slate, feel free to see what Dave Potts has to say regarding the rest of the slate. Stevie, the Mets, you got a thought as far as the Mets?
They're somewhat interesting. Miles Mikolas is a guy that doesn't typically get blown up. So I think if you want a one-off like Alonso, Lindor, Marte, any of these guys, I think you could potentially do that. But I'm not behind like fully stacking them here.
They're asking about weather edge. 41 similar games as far as the weather currently in St. Louis. I don't know if that's a big enough sample, but 20% decrease in homers, 5% decrease in runs. Looks like we're like 56 degrees, a crosswind of 10 miles per hour as well. Philadelphia, wind blowing out to left field, 59 degrees, 51 game sample, a slight bump in homers, a slight increase in runs. Yeah, I don't know. We tend to get bigger samples, I think, as the season progresses or as it starts heating up and the more normalized as far as the weather. We do have a huge sample in Anaheim, 514 games, similar weather, and nothing really crazy. 2.2% bump in homers, 4% bump in runs, so slightly better than it normally is. Top FanDuel pitcher, TJ, that's Max, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Crunch time, guys, knocking on the door. Not a moment too soon. We're killing time. We're throwing teams out there. Talk to me. We got a late scratch subbed in. I guess Roth, I don't know what happened to him. Hopefully everything is good in his world. But we're going to have TheLuuch fresh off your bold pick the other day. You got yourself a 10-1 ticket on one of the Atlanta Braves pitchers striking out a bunch of Marlins. Congrats on that. How are things in your world? And, welcome to the show.
Good, thanks. Yeah, I'm pinch hitting for Roth tonight. I'm like the Matt Stairs of crunch time fill-ins. I'll either strike out or go yard and win the game. So hopefully I could bring the noise tonight. What's up, guys? How's it going?
Doing well. Fresh off a hot day, taking down my single entries yesterday with the Giants and some Byron Buxton. Ready to do it again tonight.
Cool.
Will Dave Potts. Hey, Dave, it's been a long time. Anything new in the last 20 minutes, give or take?
I figured out how to turn my camera on in the last 20 minutes. Things happen. Actually, you wouldn't even know. I switched computers. I was sitting over there before. I'm sitting over here.
You probably got a good like shave in and took a nice little nap, right?
I took off my Dunder Mifflin shirt, put on the Rotogrinders shirt. There's a couple of the companies I work for occasionally.
Dunder Mifflin, is that right? What do you sell at Dunder Mifflin?
Paper.
Products.
He's going to leave and start. He's going to leave and start the Dave Potts Paper Company downstairs.
I'm with him. I'll go with Dave. I trust him as leader of the Dave Potts Paper Company. What's up, Will? How are things in your world?
It's going all right, man. How about yourself? We got a Hoodie Dean back in the building, fresh off a haircut. Can't beat it.
I thought that was the Luuch that had something going on. What kind of product you got in there, Luuch?
All natural, baby.
A lot of you guys look fantastic today.
Same to you, Dave.
Myself and Stevie and TJ, we're going to disappear. We're going to yield to y'all, taking everybody home. The start of FanDuel Crunch Time is now. Luuch will take you guys home all the way up to 7-ish on the East Coast. Good luck, everyone. Thanks for watching. Get to 100 likes, and I don't know, maybe TJ will jump back in and do something with a lightsaber. I have no idea, but that's it. That's the show. Here's the crossover to the FanDuel Crunch Time. Thanks for watching.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. Welcome. We are at Crunch Time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern here, and we are going to bring you up until lock. I am not Kevin Roth. I do not know weather, but I am Justin Carlucci, and it looks like a fairly quiet MLB weather night, so maybe when Roth is bored, he just takes off and throws me in there. I don't know. What do you think, Cheese? How's it going?
A pretty good night to not have the weather, man. I mean, like the weather's fine. So we can play ball wherever you want to play ball.
Sounds good. We'll break it down position by position shortly. Good to see you, Cheese. And the Chief, Will Priester. Hey, buddy. How's it going, man? A small slate tonight. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot. I don't really hate any slate per se. I think there's always a nugget or two that you can gather. But interesting slate enough. I know, one of the better pitchers already started on the slate for Draftkings. And so now we're moving over to the FanDuel slate. But I mean, for it to be a small slate, I think there was enough pitching, and that's all you can ask for really on a small slate. Can you get some pitching that you feel good about? I think if you read, the $1 million musings today, I think you were able to figure out pretty quickly that as small as the slate is, between the two sites, you could get enough pitching to do some damage.
Absolutely. And, we'll start with the pitching and drop your questions in the Discord chat, and we will get to them, of course. And, there are plenty of pricing discrepancies between both sites, as there typically is. Like you mentioned, Will, the DK slate is underway. We're going to start looking at the Fanduel pitching. And all the way up top, you have Max Scherzer, and rightfully so. He's pushing 40% ownership. The bat has him to score the most points. Then you have Shane Bieber at 10K. Pitch count finally getting stretched out. The velocity's been down. I'm a little concerned, but there's a lot of strikeouts in that Angels lineup. And if you did read the $1 Million Musings, it seemed like Scherzer and Burns are kind of on the tier of their own, Cheese, and I'll let you touch on that. And then there's a lot of other decision points on FanDuel if you're deciding to not go all the way up to the top. It's kind of, where do you want to go type of thing. So talk to me about Scherzer. Like, what's the gap between Scherzer and Bieber on this FanDuel slate, Cheese?
It's pretty huge. Like, name recognition wise, you could put Bieber and Walker Buehler up there in the top tier, but really Scherzer's his own tier. Like you mentioned, Bieber, maybe he's totally fine, but until a guy's velocity is at where it's supposed to be, and like he's not throwing as many pitches as Scherzer. I mean, he's getting there, but there's nothing about him that's as good as Scherzer right now. And the matchup is maybe slightly better for strikeouts, but it's not enough to push him up there. To me, like, if you have the salary, you should play Scherzer in 100% of FanDuel lineups. Now, you don't actually have that much salary. If you're building a bunch of lineups, there's a lot of things you can't do with Scherzer, but you are overthinking it if you're trying to put someone up there in the same tier as Scherzer tonight. If you have the money, just play him, like, really, truly, period. That's it. It was different on DraftKings when you had Burns, but we don't have him here. Just play Scherzer. I think you can play a little Bieber and Buehler just because $800 and then $1,400 to Buehler, it does matter. There are some lineups you just can't build another way. But where I'm at, I like Eovaldi and Barrios in that Boston-Toronto game pretty much the same as I like Bieber and Buehler. Like, I don't really see much separation between those four. And if I'm not playing Scherzer, it's for the sake of salary, and that's the only reason. So I have much more Eovaldi and Barrios than I do of that sort of upper mid tier. And then even cheaper than that, like, I don't like Michael Lorenzen. Like, I don't think we know what we have here. Maybe he's got something new. That first start looked good, but to me, all I see is a guy who was a below average reliever. And now all of a sudden he's starting against a low strikeout team. I don't care for it. Play Scherzer.
Yeah. Good assessment. Chief, what are your thoughts? Do you have anything different or similar?
I think for me, Bieber ends up being my odd man out. Just based on the starts this year and look, it is a small sample, so I understand that. But I had to try to weed one of these guys out, so he's kind of my odd man. Just the numbers in the season, and I do think they will normalize at some point. I just think things are a bit wonky right now. I'm just not sure completely why. I guess I want to give him another. I think he's had 3 starts, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I want to give him another at least 3 before I can see if there's something really wrong. But I mean, if you look at his season numbers right now, especially if you're in Plate IQ and you kind of go to the dashboard, there's this thing called Premium Reports, and you can just kind of look at recent trends. That's one of the things I do, just to kind of get a quick snippet to say, okay, what's jumping out right now? And ground ball rate overall is a little lower than the last 12 months. But what stood out to me, which should stand out to everybody, is just the K rate's down massively, like 11%. And so I said, he's probably going to be my odd guy out of this group. So I think he's getting the X button for that reason until he just, kind of shows us a few more starts. So that I did want to mention that about Bieber. Not Bieber, excuse me. Walker Buehler. Bieber, I don't think he's in the same tier at all as Scherzer, and David's already explained that. I think the interesting guy for me actually was Nathan Eovaldi, just because in terms of on FanDuel in that price range at $8,200, I don't expect Nathan Eovaldi to go out there. he may make it 6, like if he's pitching really well. But I think for the price, he's probably got the most upside out of all the mid-range guys. You look at this lineup for Toronto, while somewhat potent on paper, there are strikeouts. And I mean, he's sitting at 29% on the season. And I know it's early, but I'm just trying to get ahead of this thing. And he's sitting at 29%, and these K rates for Toronto are up there outside of, a couple bats. I'm willing to roll the dice if you need to, pay up in some spots. I think Eovaldi is okay. If he gets to 40 fantasy points, I think I'm feeling good. Even 38, I think I'm feeling good. Because, Scherzer, St. Louis is a fairly low strikeout team, and I was actually shocked. And I know I'm talking a lot, so Dave, if you need to hop in here, please. But I was really shocked that St. Louis's K rates on the season were as low as they were. Like, they actually caught me off guard. Like, I don't know if there's a single bat over 20%, and if so, there's only one. So it did catch me off guard. That doesn't scare me off Scherzer. But it does give me an idea that while he's stretched out, he could go 7 innings, 6 Ks, maybe give up a run or two. And then if Eovaldi goes like 5 and 7 and can squeeze out a win, like now they're about the same. It's just kind of trying to play the numbers game, which is why for tournaments I do really like Eovaldi. So I'll shut up now and let you guys hop back in this thing.
Cheese, you kind of alluded to that in your musings article about Eovaldi. Just, he's thrown 5 innings. Isn't really getting deep into the ball games. And, it's funny, now we have a couple of weeks worth of data. So now you're playing with different sample sizes, and Bieber's velocity is down. I mean, he still pitched pretty well against the White Sox. His swinging K rate stuff was okay. It's like, how worried are we 3 starts in? Merrill Kelly is a guy who his velocity was higher than it pretty much ever was in his opening start, and it's gone down every start since the opener for Merrill Kelly. So now the Chalk Dodgers are maybe a little bit scarier than they would have been. But Kelly kind of navigated his way through his last spot despite his kind of quickly diminishing velocity from the opener. So there's a lot of stuff to monitor, 2-3 weeks into the season here. Walker Buehler, Chief, I thought you made a really good point. Like we're seeing some like diminishing stuff from him, and Keith Eister wrote him up in his free scores and odds article. He's dating back to last season. I think he's failed to record at least 6 Ks in like 6 of his last 7 starts or something like that. So, there's a lot of new data to take into consideration here. Are you worried about the low K rates in that Cardinals lineup, Cheese?
Not because of the slate we have. Like, again, comparing it to when you had Corbin Burns on the slate, yes.
Okay.
But there's not really high K rates anywhere on this slate. So no, it really doesn't bother me at all.
Gotcha. We will take some questions toward the end. So if you have any more pitching questions, drop them and let us know.
Can I mention one more thing about pitching?
Absolutely.
Too, by the way? Just in terms of FanDuel, and this is just kind of trying to give you an idea, and Cheese didn't mention this, but he was saying like in that tier, he kind of felt like Eovaldi, Berrios about the same, like roughly, and I agree. What I wanted to point out was Berrios is 7,800 and Walker Buehler is 9,400. And I think that's purely because Buehler's got the Dodgers logo on his jersey. He's facing the Diamondbacks, and he's had some name value over the past couple of seasons. But if you pull their numbers up this season, they're not that far apart for them to have a $1,600 difference. So, I mean, if I was thinking about playing Buehler at all, I'd literally just play Berrios at 7,800 against Boston. I just wanted to point that out because I do think that's worth noting for the disparity of price with their skills on paper for the first 3 starts. It's roughly the same.
Okay. For time purposes, we will move on and talk some hitting. Just a reminder, check out the FanDuel 100K Monday MLB Squeeze contest with 20K up top to first place. Only $4.44 to enter for a chance at 20K. And if you haven't signed up at FanDuel Sportsbook yet and you're in a legal betting state, new users get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. So that's awesome. You definitely want to take advantage of that and sign up for FanDuel Sportsbook if you have not already. Let's move on to some hitting here. And we are talking FanDuel, and we will talk a little DraftKings toward the end. And, of course, take your questions here. You don't need a catcher on FanDuel, so that's always fun. So we'll combine catcher and first base here. And, if you want to give me, who your cash look is and then maybe some tournament targets, we can kind of tie them in together. On FanDuel, I have to do another refresh, but it looks like Max Muncy at 3,200 against Merrill Kelly is the public's choice at first base / catcher, looking to carry about 26% ownership. Freddie Freeman, his teammate, not far behind him in terms of ownership, again, against Merrill Kelly. Then you got some guys who have serious upside. Vlad Guerrero, who's taken on Eovaldi, and Jared Walsh, of course, against Bieber. A small slate here. Is it kind of between Muncy and Freeman? Cheese, like who are you looking for in cash? And give me a couple tournament looks here.
So you're probably going to play Muncy at second on FanDuel. Mm-hmm. Freeman is Freeman's sort of the optimal. Hey, let's play this guy. Don't forget Will Smith because you don't need a catcher on FanDuel. And I don't believe he'll be under 1% owned, but like he'll be like, maybe 5% to Freeman's 25%. I love all the Dodgers. And you mentioned Vlad, who won't be that popular. I definitely want to throw Pete Alonso into the tournament mix, just guys who can just break the slate at any time at no ownership. He's kind of one of the guys that jumps out at me, but in your optimal lineup, you're just playing Freeman, I think.
You mentioned Alonso, and of course, Miles is a ground ball pitcher for St. Louis, right? You don't want to stack against ground ball pitchers. I don't necessarily think he's good though. But are we going to talk some Mets? I mean, I love the Alonso call, and not a huge team total on that Mets side of things as it is. But and I don't know if Chief, if you want to piggyback on Alonso, if you have any takes on the Mets in general, and talk to me about first base.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets have been hitting fairly well there. I just think outside of even being a fairly good hitting team, I feel like this lineup design is conducive for wins. Like, don't you feel that way, Dave? Like they've just got enough in every spot, right? Like good quality hitting in most of their lineup. And the reason why I bring it up is because, Miles is probably, I don't expect Miles to get rocked. So let me say that I don't expect him to get rocked. But when you got, Nemo leading off and then Marte, who's another just kind of let's get on base and get some runs, and Lindor, Alonso, Escobar, Cano, Mark Canha, who's been good over the past, I guess we'll give him 3 seasons with the A's, at least 2. Then you got Jeff McNeil's batting 8th now, which I think last year he was probably 6th or 7th most of the time. And then while they might have a deficiency hitting at catcher, like 1 through 8 is going to be fairly tough. I like Alonso's chances to knock in some runs. I'm saying that to support the first base, tournament play of Pete Alonso, who for some reason doesn't get a lot of ownership hardly ever, unless he's facing the absolute worst pitcher in what we consider a smash spot. But I mean, with the Mets, with their lineup, they're going to give people problems all season if they're healthy. Alonso's a guy I'm going to be playing all season for what it's worth. All season.
Yeah, Chiefs, do you have any other thoughts on first base? I just, for me, a quick one. I think Dalton Varsho is interesting to save some salary. I'm interested to see how Walker Buehler fares. I know he was a 200K guy last year, but I'm interested in the Diamondbacks a little bit here. I think Varsho is an interesting salary saver.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned him because Varsho is definitely someone I was on. Here's somebody else I'm on. I don't know if you were going to ask for a home run call of the day. This guy has not come out of the gates great, okay? He's been awful. But Mitch Garver, these numbers against Framber Valdez, now that the numbers are starting to come around, I've been kind of trying to poke around a little bit. And Mitch Garver, man, on this sinker, 92% contact rate. This has got to be one of his best pitches he hits because he's nowhere near a 7.4% whiff rate on anything else. But the sinker, 7.4% whiff rate, exceptional. Hard hit percentage of 64%, ISO at 300. Mitch Garver's feels like he should send one out of the park today. It's probably going to be a solo shot because nobody else is really hitting it well. But Mitch Garver, put him on your list on FanDuel. I think he's cheap at 2,700. Like I like Garver today.
And you can absolutely stack the Rangers. Valdez doesn't know where he's throwing the ball. He's walking 16% of guys. He's walked at least 3 batters in each of his 3 starts. So I agree with the Garver call, and I think feel free to 4-man stack him.
Yeah, he's had some control issues, like you said, and Corey Seager's, hasn't been hitting the ball great, lefty, but they might get into that pen early. 3,100 for a guy with Seager's upside is pretty crazy. I know I'm jumping the gun here, but I guess we can segue into second base here. Cheese, I know you mentioned Max Muncy. Is a good move to move him over there. Who else are you looking at here at second base? Are you paying up for Trey Turner kind of thing tonight?
So this is one of those. If you're playing Turner, probably at shortstop, and you're probably playing Muncy and Turner together in a lot of lineups. But that just leaves like the rest of the position unowned. Other than I do think we'll see Mlb Dfs played because he's 2,100 and he's eligible at 3 positions. But throw Marcus Semien in the Mitch Garver category.
Oh yes.
Throw Ketel Marte in the Dalton Varsho category. Like these are good hitters. And then even with everyone playing all the Dodgers all the time on FanDuel, no one's playing Gavin Lux, who he's hitting 9th. If you want to trust early season like hard hit stuff, nobody in the world is hitting the ball harder than Gavin Lux. I like him a lot. So yes, I'm playing Trey Turner. Yes, I'm playing Max Muncy. I'm also playing Gavin Lux instead of one of those guys in Dodger stacks.
Okay. I like the Lux call a lot. Talk to me, Mr. Priester, here about second base.
Yeah, Cheese is pretty much covered it, man, outside of Eduardo Escobar. Like I just keep playing him with you just keep playing with the Mets. He's gonna have him and Alonso just gonna have RBI opportunities. Feels like all season like that, and that's what I'm saying with the Mets. Like Miles is gonna be okay, and I don't think he's gonna give up 8 runs, but I could easily see him giving up 4 through 6. Like, and I gotta feel like one of these 3 through 5 bats is the reason he's giving up runs in terms of RBIs. So, Eduardo Escobar is just a guy I like because of the RBI potential. He's 3,900. I don't like him more than Trey Turner. I don't like him more than Marcus Semien, but I like him enough in tournaments to play him over those guys in certain lineups for sure. And you can get him at third as well, but I do like him.
Any closing thoughts, or we should go on to third base?
I'm good.
Okay, cool. Third base, Jose Ramirez has many expert blips on our lineup HQ, and for good reason. I agree. I'm with you. Not sold on Michael Lorenzen. I don't actually know if he has an out pitch for lefties. Last year, he only threw a slider 2% of the time to lefties. So I think he's straight fastball, cutter, changeup. And of course, he looked great against the Marlins a couple of weeks ago, but that was the Marlins. And the Guardians are not the Marlins. And they have Jose Ramirez. A little bummed we don't have Steven Kwan in the lineup. I'm ahead of him. But man.
Isn't that a bummer? Gosh.
I do like Jose Ramirez tonight. I know best player maybe on the slate, but I got him everywhere. Devers, interesting spot too against Berrios. Big names here at third base. Mr. Potts, I'll throw it over to you first.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I love FanDuel in general is that you can play both Ramirez and Devers. To me, that's arguably the 2 best individual bats on the slate. I think Ramirez is first. He was the first thing I did this morning was tag Ramirez. I like plenty of other third basemen. I mean, it's a good position, but give me all I can possibly get of those 2 guys. And like those 2 guys are the reason why I'm not just playing Scherzer in every lineup. Because I want to get to them. Like I like Justin Turner, I like Rendon, I like Bregman. It's all fine and good, but give me Jose Ramirez and some Devers.
Okay, Chief.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add, man. That's Devers and Ramirez sums up third base, unless you want to play Jesus, I was just talking about him. My guy from
Eduardo Escobar.
Yes,
Chief wants Eduardo Escobar
at third. Other than that, but I feel better about playing him at second today. Those are the two guys. You don't have to overthink it.
All right, that was a good catch me up position. 6:50 Eastern, guys. Drop your questions in the chat. Over at shortstop, some of these guys overlap multiple positions here. Of course, Trey Turner carrying a ton of ownership. Bo Bichette 20%-ish against Evaldi. Marcus Semien might be under-owned for leading off against Valdez, so I kind of like the Rangers call you guys had. Xander Bogaerts is going almost unowned. Gavin Lux almost unowned. Lindor almost unowned. Jeremy Pena is cheap, under 10%. We got him at. You can get it. You can get a little bit different here at shortstop if you're not going all the way up to Trey Turner. So let me ask you this, Mr. Potts. If you were not going up to Trey Turner, what kind of spots do you like here at shortstop?
I would put Semien second. I like all those guys you mentioned. They're pretty good. But to me, if you're not getting up to Turner, I like Semien and or Bichette. Or I'd kind of rather say Bunny, which means like Ahmed Rosario and the Aledmys Diaz, which I don't love them, but they're okay. I like the team situations in general, and they're cheap.
Okay. Mr. Priester, give me a good tournament option or two here at shortstop. Anybody else?
Not really, ironically. I mean, it's just I think these are straightforward spots today. I don't think you have to get cute. I think you play the staple guys, or you go all the way down to Diaz, you go all the way down to Rosario, and then heck, you got Owen Miller there too, but he's actually got a little price on him if you want to play Owen Miller. So I'm just not sweating him.
All right. Keep the questions coming, guys. We will get to them. 7:07 first pitch. The outfield is where it's fun. And the last time I refreshed, we had a 43% projected ownership for Chas McCormick. And the only thing I could think of is what the hell could go wrong? What could go wrong with that situation? I see you laughing over there a little bit, Cheese. What are your thoughts on that massive ownership for McCormick?
My first thought is he will not be 43% owned because you don't really need the 2,200 guy as much on FanDuel. I mean, it's nice because it does help with the Scherzer lineups. He won't be that massively owned because you can get a lot of guys under 3K who are really good. Like I think Kyle Tucker will get as much ownership as McCormick. I think Brantley will get that same amount. I think Franmil Reyes will get up there. It's a very nice salary and it's all fine and good and wonderful, but I don't think he will be or should be 40% owned. Basically, play him in some Astro stacks and play him if you just absolutely have to have it to get Scherzer in there. But if you can play Franmil Reyes or Kyle Tucker instead of him for a little bit extra money or plenty of other guys, definitely do that.
For sure. You started rattling off some names there who are in good spots. Franmil's really cheap. Kyle Tucker has a couple expert tags. Of course, Yordan Alvarez.
3,500. I mean, that's just too cheap.
Come on. Yeah, absolutely.
And same for Springer at 3,500. You can get guys of that caliber at 3,500. You don't need to be punting to Chas McCormick.
Toronto, Boston, there's just so much unknown around Berrios and Eovaldi. Berrios pitched well, but he gave up 8 hits. He got hit around a little bit against Boston. Boston lefties against Berrios kind of, vertigo, kind of caught my attention a little bit in plate IQ. And of course, Devers. So there are some spots here to get different here. Mookie's carrying a big number tonight, rightfully so. Ohtani, pretty much every slate he's on is going to be between, 20 and 40%, give or take here. You tagged Tucker and Alvarez, Cheese. So, talk to me a little bit more about, I know Alvarez, obviously we know his upside, and he's really cheap here. You sold on Kyle Tucker tonight?
Yeah, I am. It's just that those prices are too cheap. It's pretty tough to spend over 4K on a couple outfielders. It's way easier to spend 35 and 29 on a couple outfielders. The difference between Alvarez, Tucker, and trying to get Betts Ohtani, that's the difference between getting Scherzer and having to play Buehler, which is that's your whole slate right there. So it really is a salary thing when you're spending up. And like Tucker's struggled to start the year. I mean, he's batting, 120 something, but he's still hitting the ball hard and in the air, and he's not striking out a lot. And he's facing Dane Dunning. So I'm going to buy in while he's cheap. And I think, again, we mentioned Franmil Reyes is right there with those guys of like, you can get these really high upside outfielders without spending the 4K. So that's just where I'm leaning.
For sure. Mr. Priester, talk to me here. 6:55 Eastern, and we'll talk about some pricing discrepancies on DK, and then we'll take some questions.
Yeah, let me just say I like these Texas outfielders and Diamondbacks outfielders just, for tournaments outside of, our big bat guys. I just think I'm trying to take advantage of what could be a rough stretch for these two pitchers, maybe for just another 2 or 3 weeks. And that's really all this is. So I don't feel like Framber Valdez is going to go all season looking this bad. And I don't feel like Walker Buehler is going to go all season looking this bad. But as of right now, they just don't have it. And I don't know how many more starts they're going to have. So I want to take advantage of that with some of these offenses. While they may not feel great on paper, the name of the game is let's find the worst pitcher or the worst pitchers and keep attacking them, and the good things will come. So that's kind of my approach outside of the big bats, some of those outfielders.
Okay. Do you have similar thoughts on McCormick and that massive projected ownership? You think it comes in
well, I would just absolutely fade Chas McCormick at 43%. Like I'd hit the X button. Like I don't care how many Houston stacks I had, I would just completely take him out. And I just go from there. For 43%, Chas McCormick beats me in MLB DFS. I throw up my hands and say, hey, you got it. He gets the X button for sure.
I do like the Diamondbacks value too. And I'm just at if I'm playing one lineup, I'm almost at the point though where these guys like Reyes and Tucker are so cheap and just heavy lead upside that I don't want to get to the Diamondbacks in one team. But if I'm multi-entering, I agree. I'm interested to see how Buehler fares. And I think, these Diamondbacks might be in play on DK. Real quick, just in terms of DraftKings, obviously the slate already started. Big pricing discrepancies here. Jose Barrios' price is a total joke. Am I wrong about that, Cheese, or am I right?
Oh, it's absurd. I really do like him about equal to Bieber and ahead of Buehler, just raw points. And he's 5,500. It's goofy.
Yeah. I mean, that speaks volumes about how Cheese probably views him as a tournament play on both sides, I guess, then.
Yeah.
As well. Chief, too cheap for Barrios, right? Can you endorse that play on DK at 55?
Oh, man, come on. That's I don't know what happened with the algorithm there, but it was.
They must think he's a batter for Atlanta almost.
Listen, we have 10 minutes ish, so I'm going to get to some of these. We have a ton of questions. I'm going to get to these questions in the chat, and they're FanDuel questions. And then if we don't get any more, we can carry on DraftKings discussion, I suppose, until lock. So the first one from Beaner1290 in the chat is, for FanDuel GPP, would you play Barrios over Max Scherzer for FanDuel GPP? I'm assuming it's a one lineup kind of thing here, Cheese. So, how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's such a different build. There is no answer to that question. But I mean, if I had one lineup and that's all I was building tonight, it was just for tournaments, I would probably play Barrios and load up on a couple more bats.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a big ownership thing as well on Scherzer. There's going to be a huge number on him. And I agree. And we'll see what pitcher we get out of Barrios. What are your thoughts on that one, Chief? I'll throw it over to you too as well, since we have some time.
Barrios versus Scherzer?
Yep.
Give me Scherzer. He's got the stuff, man.
Okay. Vlad is due for a big game. Some little commentary from NBA DFS. And man, talk about a guy that can break the slate for sure. FanDuel cash question from Aside 12. Mookie and Bregman or Alvarez and Jose Ramirez, Cheese. Wow. Mookie, Bregman, Alvarez, Ramirez.
I like the Alvarez J-Ram side there.
Okay. Chief, do you have a side in that one?
I'm same with Cheese, man.
Okay. FanDuel cash, another FanDuel cash question from NBA DFS. Cheese, Brantley and Jose Ramirez or Justin Turner and Alvarez?
Both sides are fantastic. You're not doing it wrong either way. I would go Brantley Ramirez. Ramirez is my number one play. So when it's that close, I would go on the Ramirez side.
Okay. Chief, you nodding your head there in agreement?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Plus, I like Michael Brantley anyway. That's my boy.
Super cheap, too. FanDuel single entry from Prodigy. Devers and Diaz or Justin Turner, Pena Cheese. Single entry tournament. Devers and Diaz or Turner and Pena.
I'm definitely on the Devers Diaz side there.
Okay. Let's see. Chief, here's a FanDuel single entry question. If you're playing Texas, would you play two lefties and two righties, assuming they get into the bullpen? Or would you just play, Semien, Garcia, Seager, Garver? Like, how worried are you about platoons and sides of the plate?
I just play the best hitters mostly, right? Now, if something stands out to me on plate IQ where I'm like, oh, kind of like Garver, right? Like Garver was like a Texas bat that really stood out to me today. So like I talk about him. He just happens to be a righty. If he was a lefty, I would have felt the exact same way, right? It's all about what I see, not necessarily how I feel about the platoon. And I am going to look at that, obviously, because if they don't hit lefties, if it's lefty-lefty, they don't hit lefties well overall, then I can't just worry about the pitch. So understand that. But to answer your question, no, I'm just trying to play the bats that profile the best, unless I'm just, making a stack on plate IQ or something like that.
Okay. Are you worried about size of the plate here, Dave Potts, at all with the Rangers?
Not even a little bit, no.
Okay. One more question here. Franmil Reyes or Solak straight up? For me, it's Franmil on that upside. I don't even think it's close. What do you guys think?
Yep.
Okay. All right. 702. I see we have someone typing in the chat here, so we'll see what he says. Anything else from your research, guys, on DraftKings that stuck out? I mean, is there a difference in tournament stacks for you? Can you pick a favorite one out from each site, or maybe they overlap? I know we talked a lot of Astros and obviously the Dodgers, but you're going to be paying for the Dodgers. But I would assume a lot of these Dodgers are going to be paired with Berrios on DraftKings because of the crazy pricing. So give me a stack or two here for tournaments you guys are into tonight.
Well, I'll tell you, I think I've already said it, but I think Arizona, Texas is kind of a interesting, sneaky spot because none of them are going to be, I don't think, really high owned per se. So I like them a lot.
Okay. You buying the Texas talk here, Cheese?
I do like Texas as a stack. I mean, I don't think you really need to overthink it with the Dodgers. Just calling them the top stack. They are the top stack, and you can build it a lot of different ways. Like it's not massively chalky because all 9 guys are playable. That's what makes the Dodgers so good. On DraftKings, the bottom of the order is free, and I like them a lot.
Okay. Josh Naylor, what do you guys think?
Are you going to read the question or not? Because
I'm just gonna pass and ask how you guys think about Josh Naylor. There's a town I got now. I'm invested there. There's a town about 20 minutes from here in the middle of nowhere called Banger, and that's the running joke. Banger.
What are you talking about? Is it a funny town?
Roth is so much better at
okay.
the dad jokes than I am. He's probably busy pickling his food or something right now. Is Josh Naylor okay in cash? I have him in one of my tournament stacks, so I'm curious for your takes.
So I would say, I really like him on DraftKings, where you need the salary so much more. It's fine-ish on FanDuel.
Right.
But I mean, personally, I would not be there in FanDuel cash. To me, that's more of a DraftKings thing with the salary, but he's fine-ish.
Would you be more prone to go to Michael Brantley at 100 more?
Yes, I would take Brantley over Naylor.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I concur.
It's fine for tournaments. We're going to talk lower ownership here at a similar price point, I'm assuming, right? I mean, part of that Cleveland order, I think he's okay for tournaments. But if you can get Brantley, go for it. One more question here. Is it okay to leave Bregman out of an Astro stack if it helps? He's on FanDuel, says Greatness in the chat. What do you guys thought?
I think that's acceptable. Yeah. I mean, there's more than 4 good Astros hitters. And salary wise, it's pretty useful not to just play the 4 most expensive ones.
Okay. Hey, got another quick question for you, Chief. FanDuel, do you like Yuli Gurriel or Christian Walker better on FanDuel?
I'm going Walker because I'm all over the airs, and I do have Walker on DK for sure.
Okay.
He's 3K,
Walker or Gurriel for tournaments?
If it's just a one-off, I would go Walker. If you don't have some kind of Houston stack around Gurriel, yeah, I would go Walker.
Okay. 7:05 Eastern, home run calls. I heard the Mitch Garver, and I like it a lot. You got anything for me, Cheese? And anybody off the radar you got a home run call on?
Yeah, so the obvious one, would be Jose Ramirez, but off the radar, I will go with Gavin Lux.
Yeah, I like that.
Hard.
That's a good one.
He will be unowned, basically. So if you can get anybody in that Dodgers team that's unowned, I think.
Yeah.
We talked about Will Smith, Lux, et cetera.
Chris Taylor, another one that just, every batter in that lineup is just good.
Yeah, and they're cheap. The bottom of the order is cheap. It's crazy. That's where we are. 7:06. I don't see any more questions rolling in, so we appreciate you guys sticking with us here. All right, how many points is Max Scherzer going to score tonight? FanDuel scoring. What do we have him projected at? God, I have DraftKings up. Let's set the under at.
We've got him projected 38.9.
Okay, let's go 44.5. Over under on Scherzer. You like that? 44.5.
I do like it. Yeah, I think he flirts with 50. I'll take the over.
Okay. All right. Chiefs Prop Shop. This is your game here. Welcome to the TheLuuch Prop Shop here. What do you got?
Well, listen, I'm all, and so here's the cool part. Like Prize Picks uses FanDuel scoring for pitching. So as we get further into the season, I start getting a much better handle. But to start the season, the lines are a little bit lower than probably they should be. And so they had Scherzer at 36.5, which I felt like was or 35.5, actually, excuse me. 35, Burns was 36.5. Felt like that's probably a little bit too low. If I had to take it right now, I am going to value the St. Louis K rates enough to where I think it affects his amount of Ks, not his skills, right? So let me make sure I got it straight. Skills and Ks. So I think overall, I still think he gets 7 Ks, not 10, right? I think he gives up a run or two. I'm going to give him 46 fantasy points.
Wow, good number. And the weird thing about this little slate is we have about a half an hour before the next game locks. So you have plenty of time to check out some ownerships. And maybe one of these guys even starts getting shelled before the next game starts and you need to kind of tinker your builds and see where you're at here. So a little bit of a gap here between the Mets Cardinals game, which is 7:45 Eastern. I don't see anything else rolling in here. Do you guys have anything else you want to bring up about anything we didn't touch on? Anything else DK wise before we get out of here?
Negative.
I think we pretty much hit on everything. It's a small slate, so there's really only so many things you can like.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, we will get out of here on that note. We appreciate everybody for sticking with us. And if you were with us from GrindersLive, thanks for spending dinner with us on another Monday night here at Rotogrinders. So for producer Steve working behind the scenes, and for Will Priester and Dave Potts, I'm Justin Carlucci. Good luck tonight, everybody, and thanks.